And we're back, and we are live with more live coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022, cruising to the Capitol. And we are here tonight to provide coverage of what is happening with the truckers' protest to end all vaccine mandates. And I'm Rick Walker with Maverick Multimedia and Maverick News. And my co-hosts are, gentlemen.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm Chris Baugh from the Flow of Discourse.
And I'm Brenden Kennedy, the host of the Flow of Discourse.
So lots of developments with this story today. A lot to unpack. We have a lot of content to share with you, a lot of analysis. We have live footage from the scene in Ottawa, some recorded footage as well that was taken through the day. And we have Carla, our frontline warrior, information warrior, who is down there gathering footage, and she has been talking to people and getting the lay of the land. She's going to let us know exactly what's been going on down there. And there's stuff on the political front, and we're going to give you the everything we know that's happening on the breaking news front as well with regard to this story. Brenden, why don't you take it away and take the lead? Let us know what's going on. I'm going to bring up some footage here now of what's been going on the scene there at Parliament Hill today.
Well, we have a lot of people who are trying to get their trucks refueled. We did see footage last night with wheelbarrows full of jerry cans, and they've been trying to get trucks fueled up. Reports of pickup trucks full of jerry cans making its way to downtown Ottawa to get all these trucks fueled up. We have a lot of people who have left the city, but I'm also getting reports of a lot of people expecting to come to we have a lot of people expecting to come back to Ottawa this weekend. And we have so I think we're going to have a similar experience to what we saw over the weekend with hundreds of thousands of people. Gentlemen, did I lose you?
I think we have something going on here. I'm still with you here. It should be interesting. I'm also hearing reports of weather, being some weather coming in the area. I don't know if it's there or going to be more our location, you and I, but we'll have to check that out too, because that may affect a lot of the people participating in the event there.
Well, we have a -7 currently in Ottawa. -7 currently in Ottawa.
Too bad.
Supposed to snow overnight, and we're expecting a mix of rain and snow over tomorrow. So what that is going to look like, I am not sure. So some people look like they're pretty permanently down there. That's an ice fishing hut.
Yeah, according to the maps, it is still pretty congested, and it's expanded a bit. It looks like it's got a bit of an ebb and a flow over the last few days, but it is restricting a little bit more, in at least road closures. But yeah, and from what it sounds like, what we've heard in the last day or two there, it sounds, they are there for the long haul. They have enough to stay there for as long as they need, and financially, right? Oh, hey, Rick, if you want to pull up this my share screen here, actually, there's a bit of a buildup in our road closures up here past Gatineau Park and Pink Lake Lookout. Seems to be going quite a bit higher to the north as it was before. The last time I was seeing it, I believe the other day, it was only about here, and now it's kind of extended up over here.
So the thing is, we were waiting for today because today has, the festival, the party, the rally type of thing that was going on over the weekend has, had to subside to some degree today because people were there. A lot of people came in to support these truckers. We've heard all kinds of estimates on how many trucks were there over the weekend, coming from all over the country. A lot of them didn't make it all the way downtown. I think probably the majority of them did not make it downtown. Police directed a lot of them to staging areas, parking lots, even the airport, to try to keep the city from becoming completely clogged up. And a lot of the supporters who came in cars and however they got there, some of those people had to go back to work today. And some of the truckers have left to go back to work, but they were there over the weekend to support the core group. The question was, what does the core group look like? How many truckers would remain on scene? And as you can see from this map and from the footage we just showed you, there is still a heavy presence of truckers down there, and they are still applying pressure on the government to meet their demands, which are pretty simple. They either want the government to resign, they want all the government members to resign, they want Justin Trudeau especially to step down, or end all vaccine mandates, all of them. Not just the mandates for the truckers who are crossing the border. They want them all gone. And that's a pretty simple ultimatum. But the government has said no. Justin Trudeau has been digging in his heels and is refusing to budge on the issue. So we have a standoff on our hands. So what are we looking at here, Chris? We've still got some log jams, traffic jams.
Well, it looks like along you got Wellington there, I do believe, going that way. Myself, like I said, I'm not too privy on the streets without really looking at them, looking them up. Never been, but it looks like the main strip there is still clogged up pretty good. It looks like it hasn't changed, other than it kind of looks bigger than it was yesterday.
So what are all these red lines? These are
all the red lines here are the live traffic, as they have a fast to slow. So from green, the orange to red to dark red is generally from how fast your traffic, with solid lines. Anything dotted and with a sign as such is road closed.
And how recent is this map? Do you know?
I believe, it's Google Maps, so I'm imagining it is as recent as it can be. I will even give it a quick reload here.
Yeah, because
Google,
of course, is pretty much up to the minute, right?
I think it is, with that aspect, until you go down to the actual photo feed they have for Google Earth and all that kind of stuff, right? That's timed out however they do it, but
it actually looks a lot worse than it was.
That's what I mean. It's gotten bigger, but in different areas too. So down here you see the side streets are really starting to fill up, and that's probably where a lot of those side streets that Carla had mentioned to us last night. This was what the big point of concern was, the John A. MacDonald Parkway and Booth there, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So that was that intersection there. And that seems to be clearing up a lot. The traffic seems to be moving, a little bit slow spots and some patchy parts where they have stopped traffic. But for the most part, it looks like if you finagle yourself, they might have some detours or different routes so you're able to get through safely. Again, we'd have to check traffic cams from that.
We also have some happenings out in Alberta, at the Alberta-Montana border, where truckers moved in yesterday and they've been blockading the border. So we've seen an escalation in that regard. And we have some footage to share with you from there. And apparently a convoy of truckers and farmers stormed through a police barricade that was blocking access to the blockade at the Alberta-Montana border. So things are getting pretty heated down there. It's been very peaceful in Ottawa, but you can see that this is a powder keg waiting to be ignited in some ways. And we did hear earlier over the weekend that the truckers were looking at possibly expanding this out to border crossings if their demands were not met. They did talk about that, and now we're seeing it in Alberta. So I'm going to bring you some of this footage here in just a moment.
I think this thing that has happened in Ottawa or at the Alberta-Coots border, I think that is entirely separate to what we've seen here. I think these are people who are also fed up with the vaccine mandates, as well as all the other restrictions that we've had, and that they've come out in support of the truckers by going out to the Alberta-Coots border and blocking it. It was my information that they had opened up one laneway so that emergency vehicles and people could kind of get by. So how much of it, I believe it's just access into Alberta that is totally blocked off. Or
So
access to the United States.
Yeah, I'm not exactly clear on what you're saying there, Brendan. What can you just elaborate on that a bit to clarify, because I'm not quite sure.
It looks like traffic from the U.S. is able to get in, but people are not able to get into the U.S. from Canada.
So they're not allowing truckers to leave Canada, or any traffic to leave Canada?
Yeah.
So they're not blocking access coming into Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That seems kind of
But
strange.
we know that police have moved in there, and obviously the authorities don't want this to expand and escalate, especially along the borders. As I was saying yesterday, the truckers sitting outside Parliament Hill don't really have a ton of leverage if all they're going to do is sit there. They're not putting economic pressure on the government or on big companies, corporations that rely on deliveries, because they're in the nation's capital. It puts pressure on the municipality. It clogs things up in Ottawa, but it doesn't really affect other aspects of the economy beyond what's going on there locally. But if they expand out, if this takes on a new dimension, and other truckers head off to the border, as we're seeing in Alberta, because of for the same reasons, then it takes on a whole new dimension, and that's why police are moving in there fairly quickly. I think this is just my opinion, but they want to try to nip this in the bud, because they don't want this expanding out to other border crossings, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this.
Rebel News has stepped up and said that they would fight any legal penalties faced by those truckers, so they are supporting things in that way. I'm not sure how much that will do, but if anything happens with this, I think it might happen tonight.
It certainly seems that way, doesn't it? It's like police are not waiting. It doesn't look like they're waiting, and it looks like they're trying to prevent more trucks from getting down to the border crossing. So, yeah, I mean, this is the scene. This was the scene here. This footage is it's less than an hour old. And this is where a convoy of truckers and farmers just stormed through a police barricade that was blocking access to the blockade at the Alberta-Montana border. And this footage is from John Nisbet. So I'm not sure what we're going to see here. It looks like...
Holy shit. There they go. Woo!
I see.
Go, truckers, go!
Oh, yeah, they've made it through.
Yeah, they just went around them. Look at that. Yep.
Well, they are in tractor.
Yep.
And the coots.
That's hilarious. They
So much for your road blockade.
You can't do that. Like, hey, stop it.
Yep, they just went over to the other lanes, you see. Crossed through the median, and off they go.
There they go.
Hey, you guys, stop it. Stop it.
Hey, guy, what are you doing, friend? Jeez. Yeah, that's that's one way to do it.
I did bring up the official RCMP statement that came out today about what they're going to do with that. We could give that a read over if you are interested.
I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. What do you guys think?
I put it up in my screen share.
Yeah. You want me to bring up something here, Brendan?
Yeah, I brought up the official RCMP statement regarding the Coutts Border Assembly,
Okay.
and it has some pictures sponsored by the government, so we could give that a quick read over. It says here, the RCMP continue to act to preserve the peace and maintain public safety of the Coutts border crossing. What may have begun as a peaceful assembly quickly turned into an unlawful blockade. While the Alberta RCMP has been in a position to conduct enforcement, we have been engaged with protesters at the Coutts border crossing in an effort to find peaceful and safe resolution for all involved. We thought we had a path to resolution. The protesters eventually chose not to comply. As of this morning, further action is being taken at the by the Alberta RCMP as the blockade continues to impede the ability for emergency vehicles to provide full services to area residents. It has also negatively impacted the flow of goods and services and impedes the public's freedom of movement. A highway is considered essential infrastructure. It is unlawful to willfully obstruct, interrupt, or interfere with construction, maintenance, use, or operation of any essential infrastructure in a manner that renders the essential infrastructure dangerous, useless, inoperative, or ineffective, as per the Critical Infrastructure Defence Act of Alberta. Anyone who actively blocks the highway or aids, counsels, or directs the highway to be blocked may be subject to arrest and charge under this act. Persons participating in this blockade can also expect enforcement of any contraventions of the Criminal Code of Canada, the Traffic Safety Act, and use of highway and rules and of road regulations, this location and area of roadways. The Alberta RCMP uses necessary measures to protect fundamental freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of expression, to promote safety of all citizens, to enforce laws, to maintain peace and order. In turn, it must be recognized that while everyone has a right to peaceful freedom of expression, the general public, local residents, and businesses also have the right to a safe environment and freedom of movement. This event is not a peaceful assembly. Alberta RCMP would like to advise that commercial vehicles should contact Canada Border Service Agency for further information regarding border crossings. Then here we have their images. It's hard to get a full scope.
Well,
Like,
you can
this
see
is-
the line there. That's a lot of vehicles. Now, so what do you guys think?
This is probably the pressure starting to be applied. But are they really blocking people from getting out of the country? Because it kind of doesn't make sense to me. That would just make us lose money. And I don't know. It's wouldn't you have to block both to make it
I'm pretty proud of what's happening with this. I'm concerned for them on the ground. It says this event is not a peaceful protest or a peaceful assembly. So they have deemed it a criminal act at this point. So I think we could expect trouble on this kind of any minute now, if it hasn't already happened.
Yeah, I don't think the truckers care
No.
at this point, and I think there are a lot of Canadians who, frankly, don't care. And I think this is what you get, honestly, folks, when you have a government that has decided to ignore the law and has decided to shred the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and to just stomp on everybody's rights and to coerce people into taking a vaccination that they don't want or maybe can't have for medical reasons that the government doesn't care about. Whatever the reasons might be, there are probably a million different reasons why people don't want it. But when the government forces people like like they have been when you take people's jobs away and pummel them with a coercive stick in order to get them to comply with what you want and ignore their rights, and you implement these unlawful mandates on people, and you end up with a tyrannical government, this is what you get. So I'm not surprised. And I don't think the truckers care, and I think a lot of people don't care. Now, people on the other side, they can point to these laws, and the police obviously want to keep everyone safe, and they've got a job to do, and they're in a difficult position here. But people have had it. They're fed up. They've had a belly full of this, and this is what you get. This is what you get. What the hell did these politicians and bureaucrats really expect would happen? Did they really expect people would just sit back and take it and just comply? They have an 80 to 90% compliance rate as it is, and they're still hammering people with a giant stick. Remember the carrot and the stick? Try, encourage them with the carrot, and when they don't comply, get out the stick and beat them to a pulp. Beat them into submission. That's been their strategy. That's what a tyrant does. Justin Trudeau is the worst prime minister this country has ever had. He is a tyrant. He is acting like a dictator because that's exactly what he is. And this is what you're going to get in a country that was free just a couple of years ago and is no longer free, and you're trying to enslave the population. So expect more of it, I think. That's what you're going to probably get from these guys.
We're going to have to update the history books to reflect that Kim Campbell is no longer the worst prime minister in Canadian history. I think this one takes the cake when you have somebody who's demonizing people this badly. And not only that, we've all had a form of censorship over our life since Justin Trudeau came into power. We always know these people who want to give their opinion, and they always have to start off, well, I'm not a bigot, but, and I'm not this, but you see, that's how all this political correctness stuff has been working, and it's all been happening since he's been in power. Now, I don't think Justin Trudeau deserves all the blame, because the provincial premiers have been god-awful too. We still don't have any word out of Doug Ford to this date about anything that is happening. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, we don't have any word out of him as of to date about anything that's been happening. You see posts on his Twitter about Black History Month, about visiting a 5th grade class at a school and things like that, but we don't have any word out of him so far.
He's a weak leader. He isn't a leader at all. Doug Ford is, I think at this point, not sure what to do. And that's why he's just not talking much. He's just keeping a low profile, keeping his head low as all of this unfolds. That's what his strategy is right now. But I'm telling you, man, this thing is going to escalate, I think. You can see it in Alberta, and it's not going to stop there. And even if they manage to keep that border crossing open, I think this is probably going to spread to other border crossings, and you're going to see escalation in other ways. And if they start to try to yank those trucks out of Ottawa, I think you're going to see even more pushback. This is just getting started.
Mm-hmm. No, I think a lot of people don't realize that either. Again, I can't see a new crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think a lot of people who are not in support of what's going on don't realize how big of an issue this really is. I think they're in their own little echo chambers to a degree, and it's honestly, it sucks. It just sucks. But yeah, I think this might be the only way that they're going to be able to apply that pressure. Like you said, we are starting to see some changes happening coincidentally, even though I know some of them were pre-planned already for date specifics and stuff. But it's still, like you said, the demands, they have to step down or they remove all the mandates.
Let me be clear. We're not advising anyone on any of this. We're not suggesting anybody do anything. We're just making predictions, commenting. That's all we're doing. This is what I think is likely to happen. And I don't think anybody should really be surprised to see this happening right now, because people are pretty PO'd.
And all things considering too, for how big this protest was, for there to be no injuries, no deaths, there's no damage really. The streets are clean.
Well,
Like,
how long are the Canadians, these Canadian truckers in Ottawa going to be nice? I mean, they've
that's
gone
true.
in there. That whole thing over the weekend was peaceful, patriotic. It was,
It was like
filled with
Canada
love.
Day.
It was a very Canadian protest. The people are down there. I know that they are moving it. The city has not been cleaning up down there. So the protesters are. I've seen social media posts from people talking about organizing cleanups. They're now getting snow removal equipment from private people, gators, small snow blowers. They're moving in snow removal equipment so that the protesters can keep the roads clear and the sidewalks clear and keep everything safe down there. That's what they're doing. So they're, really, the protesters are going above and beyond. And yet, what did we get from the government and the mainstream media over the weekend? Lies, smears, talk about Nazis and white supremacists. And what we get from Jagmeet Singh? Same thing. Sitting there talking about all these truckers and protesters, being white supremacists.
Yeah.
Trying to turn this into some racist thing.
Aaron O'Toole was not better on his Twitter page either. He had basically spun the same garbage that the NDP Jagmeet Singh had put out and that Justin Trudeau put out. So,
well, God, he's a wet carrot, man.
Yeah,
it's
just
sickening,
a wet carrot.
man. It's sickening. It's just a great big blatant stupid lie.
Yeah.
Some of it manufactured. The Nazi flag, obviously a false flag. Just a load of crap. Just a load of crap. I'm telling you, man. So this is what you're getting. This is the pushback you're going to get.
And it's years in the making. This is not something that happened overnight either. This is years in the making. All these people have all talked about this stuff amongst themselves for years and years. And I think this trucker cross-border mandate is a straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. And I've received some disturbing news here. I'm just putting it up here. I'm on the Minister of Transport's Omar Al Gabera on his Twitter. And I can't stand this guy. Just looking at his Twitter page, I feel like kind of puking. But just a sec here, I'm going to find this tweet and then...
The horns are still ringing out.
Oh yeah, they're not stopping. And I've heard a couple rumblings of some of the municipality are getting pretty irritated about it, regardless of what the point of the convoy is. And to some aspects, I can understand, but then there's the other aspect of it. So there could be worse things. There could be much, much worse things, right?
My word of advice for anybody who lives in Ottawa: contact your government.
Yeah.
Tell them you want all this stuff done. Tell them no more. Like, tell them you don't agree with it, and that you're not a part of the 90%. Because you could blame this on the truckers all you want, but at the end of the day, this is years of buildup of frustrations of tyranny on a people.
Yeah, there seems not as much clips of live streams coming out of there either right now too, because as it is getting into the middle of the week here, it's Tuesday, it's a little bit slower. And I feel as this does get more serious, it's going to be harder and harder to get more footage of it, because it's going to be a lot more serious, like we're discussing, right? The party time, the great feeling of, oh, this is amazing, is started to subside from the weekend, and it's kind of going to get to let's get to business type of thing, right?
Yes.
But
I think we lost Rick somehow, but that's okay. I'm sure he'll join back on any minute now. The
well, since I'm here, well, you just kind of keep doing your thing. I guess I'll go through some of the comments here. It's great to see a lot of these familiar names. Seem to got a couple people coming back and back and back. It's great to see you guys. I unfortunately am unable to select and highlight your comments to bring them up, but I'll guess from the start here, hey, Richard Delaglies. I hope I said that properly. Good evening, Julie. Thank you guys for tuning in. Uncle Owl, welcome back. Still unsure if you're heckling us or not, but either way, it's great to have a viewer. Everybody's opinion, perspectives are definitely welcome. Want to have a dialogue about things. Larry Culling's back. Elite 333, you are back. Is there somebody can read the translation? Translation for what? A little while ago there. Keep on going. Again, best thing you guys can do is just, if you share. If you happen to know anybody who is out in Ottawa right now, if you can share this stuff to them too, reach out to them, see if they would like to reach out back to us, give us a bit of perspective on what's happening on the ground. Again, the only way this happens is if we all work together, because as we've been trying to say before, we're trying to present the truth as clear as we can, and it was from what we've been observing. And just want to talk about this stuff and not just take it all under wing. Bren, how's it coming along there?
Okay, I found the tweet.
Fantastic.
So, the Trudeau government plans to hit truckers again and implement interprovincial vaccine mandates. So, on Sunday morning, the day after the massive freedom convoy arrived in Ottawa, Canada, to protest vaccine mandates that would force the unvaccinated Canadian truckers crossing the United States border to quarantine once they've returned home, the CBC reported the Transport Minister for Canada, reported that the Transport Minister for Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government stated there was working being done to implement interprovincial vaccine mandates for truckers, and this was reported by the Daily Wire. It's one of those things, they just kind of snuck it in as a tweet where they said, where it's just like one little line. And I think that this is something that is not being talked about enough, because I know it's going to be a whole new group of people to piss off.
Fair enough. And that was the day. What was the date on that again? Sorry.
January 30th.
And it's interesting too, because we're hearing reports even now, like right now in the first, and it's basically saying, we got the message, we understand, you guys need to go home now. And it's like, you hear things like that to happen just the day after, and it's like, are you sure? Because if that was the case, I think just an inkling of that message would have gotten through before that post would have came out, So it definitely makes you kind of a little skeptical, a little uneasy about that. At least me, anyways. Question everything.
Well, when you look at his Twitter, you just see people just saying, learn how to read the room. How about no?
Oh, dear goodness.
People are just ripping on him. Like, they nobody wants this, apparently. I don't know who wants it.
One of our other comments here, Sheila Reber, heard that the horns are being synchronized for only 10 minutes every 30 minutes. Not too sure. That's interesting, though. It's not too bad.
I think he might have deleted this tweet. He totally did delete it.
Angel Portia says, we have people working together, sending food and lots of love.
And if you look at the GoFundMe page for the truckers, it looks like it's almost at $10 million right now.
I wouldn't doubt it. It keeps exceeding its goals. So, in other news as well, we took a peek at some of the news that was going on yesterday in regards to all this happening, and there was a big shout out to the convoy, or not shout out to the convoy, but coverage of the convoy by I believe Fox covered it, and a couple of the other independents online. A lot of them are outraged by how the government is handling this, and they've been consistently making fun of our prime minister, which has been fantastic. I will be honest, it sounded like a repeat of a lot of things we were saying on our shows during the stream of it, of just how we were making fun of him in hiding. It was quite nice to see the mainstream news, doing what they should be doing. But yes, it's quite interesting.
I'm not sure if Fox is mainstream, but I do know that Greg Gutfeld, the host of their late night show, they have surpassed Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, all those liberal, left-leaning late night show hosts, and that he just comes on this year or within the past year, and he's overtaking them as the king of late night. So things are happening where there's been so much censorship on the left and so much BS on the left. Like when they say if you go woke, you go broke, there's just so much truth to that. I think this is a big part of that too.
It's fair enough.
I'm going to check in on Rick Walker here. Give me one moment.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Well, I'll just kind of keep going. Hey, shout out to you guys. I guess we got a confirmation from Sue here, a second person confirming that the horns are every 10 minutes, every half hour, 10 minutes every half hour. So that's, again, it's not as bad as it could be. At least there's a bit of an organized situation. I guess it's organized to a point where they're at least unifying and, I guess, amplify the message itself. Hey, Sailor Jerry. Welcome. Please, everybody, share. If you know anybody who's out there right now, best thing you can do is share this and ask if they'd like to reach out and share their perspective of what's going on right now down there. Horn blasting insistently could put a few neutrals off. An intermittent break, probably best. Angel Portia says, Trudeau is a spoiled little boy whose daddy has been feeding him with his gold spoon. He doesn't even have COVID. He's a coward and in hiding. I cannot confirm those, unfortunately. As far as I know, he's supposed to still be sick, but it's not like, I don't know, I don't really care anyways. I want the guy to just apologize. Unfortunately, I am unable to access any live footage from back here, so please bear with us, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate everything you guys have done, tuning in for the last few days, sharing, and just giving us the support that you've given us so far. Barbara's Gray says the truckers is the strong people that has nerves to do what others don't.
Don't. I think I know what she's getting at. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened with Rick Walker. I'm sure he won't be too long.
I wonder if his power went out. We're being targeted.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oh no, I always listen to the government. That's always what I do. Always. There was a news comment this afternoon on how Trudeau tried to tell them how to resolve a riot in their country and runs and hides when he has a problem and should mind his own business.
I think that happened yesterday.
Yeah, really. Well, let's hear from you guys out there. I'll ask you a couple questions. Based on the speech, the more so the response that he had given to talk to the demonstrators. How did you guys feel about the language that was used in aspect to that? Is there anything that stuck out to you guys? I know there was a lot of things that were in between the lines for me, and some blatantly right in our faces. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. More opinions are better than one. Bam, we got Bren. Rick, you're back. You made it, my friend.
Yes, I apologize. My internet was completely disconnected.
It's not a
Something
problem.
happened.
Well, we just
But we're
kind of
back.
we took a chance to go through a bit of the comments here, and we're just getting caught up here. So we're all good. If you guys had anything ready to pull up,
Yeah, I do. So we were just talking about how the Justin Trudeau's transport minister had made a sneaky little tweet saying that he wants to bring in inter-provincial trucking vaccine passport mandates. I had gone to his Twitter page, and it looks like he tried to delete the Twitter page, the tweet entirely. Excuse me. So here we have the article from the Daily Wire.
Let me just bring that up for you.
Okay, so there it is. And so here's the tweet. It says, on interprovincial vaccine mandates for truckers, Transport Minister at Omar Al-Gabera and Rosie Barton, there is working being done to get us there. And so...
Yeah. So as much as we should not be surprised by the truckers escalating things, as we've seen in Alberta,
Mhm.
I don't think we should be surprised by this either, because the Prime Minister has made it clear that he's not backing down. He doesn't even want to talk to these truckers or to any of the thousands and millions of Canadians who are fed up with this stuff. And this is their escalation on their side, I think. But of course, they're not being too public about it, because this is just going to inflame things even more. I don't think Justin Trudeau is going to give in at all.
No, I don't think it will either. I do know that there is a petition going around, and it was even signed by his younger half-brother to have him removed, or to have a vote of no confidence to come out. Do you think that the federal government could even implement this? I'm not sure.
Could they implement this? Yes.
Yeah.
Because they'll do anything. They don't care.
yeah, they've already
What the
done.
laws are anyway.
Yeah, they've already done everything. They've already done unconstitutional things.
Just stay the F home, get this vaccine, or you don't have a job.
And like that's the crazy thing about it is that people are like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I got everything's it's fine. I got all this material stuff. That's essentially what it really boils down to. I got all this stuff. It's fine. What do you mean?
And
What do you mean we're
Skylar,
not
yes,
free?
just Skylar, yes, we do have some more footage coming from the Capitol shortly, and we also have somebody on the ground there who's going to be joining us shortly to tell us exactly what's happening in Ottawa. Sorry, go ahead, gentlemen. I just wanted to respond to that.
No worries at all. Yeah, it was a little difficult for me because I couldn't highlight them. But yeah, it's like you said, there's really no question about it, right? Like he's already done what he's done.
He'll just do whatever he wants.
He's not going to ask for
do whatever
permission.
he wants.
I think if there's one thing that could be stated, like this is a minority government that has done more stuff. I'm not saying it's good stuff, but they've done more stuff than any minority government in the history ever.
Yay, Maynard.
It's definitely not good though. Like they're just like, oh, we're just gonna bulldoze over everything. Like democracy in this country has been hit in the stomach so hard that there's been no debates going on in our provincial parliaments. There's been no debates going on in our parliaments. Like you'd seen going back for years now, it's the Trudeau government and our provincial premiers are just saying, well, we're just going to do this and that's that. It's emergency powers or this, that, or the other thing. But I sure hope that some lawsuits make it through soon and that they make it through hard.
Well, we're as I say, this is just getting started. I think things are likely to escalate. They're escalating on both sides. The government doesn't want to let go of this. If, as we've said earlier, and many people have stated in these live streams that we've been doing since the beginning of our coverage, when since last Friday. We are, I think, at war here. This is a new form of warfare, and that's what we're witnessing. And it's being waged by the truckers. They're on the front lines. They are the soldiers, taking it to the government right now. A government that is acting in a very anti-Canadian fashion. A government that has no regard for our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, for our Constitution, for our laws, for people's rights. No regard for freedom at all. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. And no regard for bodily autonomy. And they now have what was deemed to be a conspiracy theory just a short time ago, vaccine passports. Digital vaccine passports.
Oh, they'll never do that. No. What, are you conspiracy theorist? Come on.
And now that they have it, they don't want to let this go.
And that's what I said.
If you think that this digital passport system was developed, say, within the last 6 months to a year, give your head a shake. This is an elaborate tracking system that is being implemented, and they've been developing this for a much longer period of time. They've been developing this technology, this app, this software, this system for years. This, whether you believe it's, because of or in reaction to, but they're using this pandemic as an excuse or a reason or as an opportunity to roll this stuff out. And now that they have it, and this is not just in Canada, this is what they've been trying to roll out around the world. And here in Canada, it has progressed at a rapid pace, and now we have it. And they are not going to want to let this go, especially now that it's gone this far and they have this much compliance.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these truckers that are down there are vaccinated. It's not just unvaccinated truckers, and it's not just unvaccinated people down there protesting. It's people who have come to realize that even after complying, getting the vaccine, downloading this digital app onto their phones, and allowing the government to track them, complying with the idea of going into bars and restaurants and gyms and you name it, complying so that they can keep their jobs, they're beginning to realize that this is about a lot more than just a virus. And that's what people are down there fighting for and fighting against, really, is for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Because the government has no regard for it.
You hit a really good point there, Rick, when you said that stuff about the vaccine passport being around for a long time now. You're absolutely right. This is something that has been in development since the Trudeau government has come into office. Since 2017, Canada has been funneling millions of dollars into a World Economic Forum program called the Known Traveler ID Project. And anyone can look it up for themselves. It's ktdi.org. And they even ran on a platform in the last election stating that they were going to funnel even more millions of dollars into this program.
Hidden in the many folds of their pamphlet of what their promises and their role was for that year. I do remember when you and I had gone through each of the parties and we're like, wow, only one party has an easy one to read. All of them, it's like a catalog. No one wants to read that.
That's how they often do this stuff.
Well, of course, even with bills. They'll tuck it in, around 347 or 763 out of a 900 page document. It just slips through the cracks. I'm going to be
Well,
honest. I'm going to be
and-
paying a lot more attention to CPAC this year and a lot of these House of Commons debates and when these discussions get brought up, because this is getting ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is beyond ridiculous. Like, just absolutely. Like, I'm sorry. When a leader says their citizens' views are unacceptable, regardless of the amount of people it is, those are your citizens. That's not what leaders do. You know, I've heard one of the people I follow say, "That's a tyrant." Straight up.
Here's some footage from just a short time ago. This is not live. This is from 4K guy
Ooh,
and
some more goodies.
drone footage. This is on Laurier, I believe, Laurier Avenue. Going into the downtown area. So we'll see what there is to see here. This is not right at Parliament Hill, but it's going to give us a sense of what's kind of going on in the outlying area. We can continue to comment on other things even as this footage rolls here for a moment.
Yes, I agree. Just let it roll for a bit, and we can. We have also been busy with our lives all day today, so it's kind of good to catch up with what's going on in the ground there.
Well, you know, if people think that, I mean, people need to realize, even these interprovincial measures that they're talking about for vaccine passports for truckers, it's not going to stop there. These Justin Trudeau has been relentless. The premiers have fallen into line, and it's just been incremental, a little bit at a time. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Stay the F home. Stay the F home. Stay the F home. I was a lot of other people. I was appalled from the beginning. It was so clear that this was never going to be temporary, and people have complied, and here we are, folks. And I just hope and pray we're not too late.
Hopefully.
But this is what we've got.
Yeah,
It's a standoff. It's a standoff.
I don't really want to move, you know? I liked it here.
I did like it here too. I mean, not so much anymore, but we are putting the right pressures in place though, and they're not going to admit it, but even look at today, like the amount of stuff that has happened in the past 24 hours is absolutely astounding. Like, you can't even keep up with it. Francois Legault, the premier for the most tyrannical province of them all, Quebec, they just backed down on their vaccine tax. So they were going to implement a tax where it was going to be between $100 to $800, and they were going to tax people who chose not to be vaccinated.
It's like a tax to exist.
Well,
Yeah,
that's where we're going to see the concessions, the movement to, I think, respond to the truckers in a way that will be more likely to satisfy them is at the provincial level. And we've already started to see that. But at the federal level, Justin Trudeau, he's digging in. He's digging in.
What do you guys think that Francois Legault, the premier for Quebec, and his statement saying that the trucking movement had nothing to do with his decision? Like, he went ahead and tabled an entire bill that was going to charge people money for not being vaccinated. Do you think that trucking did have something to do with it, or is it causation, or is it correlation, gentlemen? Tell me.
I want to say causation. I'm sorry. The timing is just, you know.
I'm not sure that the phraseology, the phrasing is appropriate, but he's a tyrant. He's a dictator, just like Justin Trudeau. He's a terrible premier. He doesn't rule in the spirit of what Canadians expect from their leaders. He's an elitist, and even just him tabling that kind of legislation, talking about it, was sickening. It was divisive, discriminatory, horrifying, not Canadian.
No.
It's not how a leader. It's not how a
This,
leader.
this is a
behaves.
premier that brought in curfews to battle a virus. Curfews that honestly are not based in science. Stupid. You have to be a special kind of stupid to think that a curfew can do anything to combat the spread of a virus. So he's either an idiot or just a tyrant. I tend to go with the second. I think he likes it. He likes to abuse people.
Of course he does, because his previous Minister of Health didn't agree with it and didn't like it, and so he stepped down. And so he went around with it anyway. You know, one thing that lockdowns do stop people from doing is it stops them from talking to each other. It stops them from seeing what things are going on. Like, it stops so many things, but it doesn't stop a virus. In fact, it might even help spread it more, because it locks everybody into their home at the end of the night, and maybe it exposes you to people that you wouldn't otherwise see, or what have you. So I mean, it was the dumbest thing ever. Quebec has a lot of things to answer for.
None of these premiers, nobody in the federal government that has supported any of this, even at the municipal level across the country, medical officers of health, municipal councillors, chiefs of police, any of them that supported any of this, none of them, not one, is fit for the offices or the positions that they hold today. Not one of them. They've violated the rights and the freedoms of Canadians. Every single one of them should be swept aside and replaced with people who are there to protect the citizens, protect people's rights, find the correct balance between public safety and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Constitution, people's rights. This pandemic was not justification for them to go in and shred the Charter.
No.
And completely ignore it.
You just look at
and use it as an excuse to target certain groups of people, use them as scapegoats, and divide the country the way that they have. None of them from any of the parties. This is not partisan. What I'm saying is not one of those politicians, bureaucrats at any level of government, any of them that supported any of this, not fit to govern. Not fit. It's disgusting what they've done to the people of this country, the way they've scared people, the fear mongering, the way that they've used fear as a tool to get people to comply. Canadians deserve better. They
Agreed.
never deserved this.
The world deserves better. Like, even our compatriots in the United States, they deserve better too. And this is catching on with them as well. We're going to see all kinds of crazy things that are going to happen, I think, down in the States. The States, at least more so on the right than the left, the right is endorsing this movement like really hardcore. I have footage from downtown Ottawa from about an hour ago.
You know, my words might seem harsh to some. I don't think so. And I won't apologize for it ever.
I'm not apologizing for anything.
I am disgusted. And then the rhetoric that we've heard from the Prime Minister, even from yesterday and his address, the comments about people harboring unacceptable views.
tyrant.
Oh,
Tyrant.
that's what
There you go,
living in a
Rick.
democracy is all about in a free society, is people can have different opinions on things.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to always be able to have different opinions on things.
Well, we still can, right? It's just people don't see that. Oh, they've changed the definition of a lot of things. Elite 3333. changed the definitions on them quite a bit. Well, that being said, we're in a world where definitions don't matter. They've changed them. They bring it down to a point of semantics. It's really, at the end of the day, definitions don't matter anymore.
No. They matter to me, though.
Well, anyone who speaks English, you'd imagine they would. You know?
They matter to me, though. And so, like... Everything okay there? Everything okay?
Yeah, sorry, I'm back, guys. I'm just having some internet issues here tonight, but I'm still with you.
No
The
worries.
RCMP is onto us.
On to us?
Yeah.
How so?
What are we doing?
Should I expect a knock at the door?
Maybe.
I got a full kettle.
Why are you saying the RCMP is onto us? What did I miss?
Want some
Because
tea?
because we're sitting here criticizing the government.
Oh, well, I don't have anything against police. I certainly don't have anything against the RCMP. Really like those guys. But,
Yeah.
They've got a job to do.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the government, I think, has been directing those guys in an inappropriate direction. And the point I'm trying to make here is those police officers, regardless of the police service they're employed by, including the chiefs, you're pointing down. You need something?
Yeah, pull this footage up.
Oh, there you okay, sure. So they're in positions of leadership, right? Canadians expect and deserve true leadership. And if you're a medical officer of health and you know that and you disagree with something, you should do more than just protect your job by complying. If you're a chief of police, and we did see this honestly in Ontario. So Doug Ford, if you remember, what was it he wanted to do? He wanted to start pulling people over randomly.
Yep,
Remember that?
arbitrary stops.
Yes. And so we did see some pushback from police services on that in
Yeah,
some
they said no.
jurisdictions.
Yep.
And thank goodness for that. So I take my hat off to those chiefs who did that, and to the different police services that stood up and said, that's a little bit much.
Mhm.
We're not going to do that. So
I
thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I remember at a prior show, Brent and I were talking about that, and I had mentioned that we got to remember the small victories that we've achieved over the last few years, and that's one of them. That was a position where they basically had a litmus test, and they're like, "Wait, hold the phone. This isn't what we signed up for," and
No.
then they did the right thing, and yeah, it was good. Kind of kept the hope going a little bit,
Yeah. At the same time, I feel very uncomfortable when I see protests happening and even local police services sending up drones to surveil their citizens.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just did. What else is there to say? The cops they're unleashing these tools that are supposed to be used for search and rescue, for public safety. But I think that it's gone beyond that. They've been surveilling people with drones, using facial recognition and who knows what other technology to target peaceful, otherwise law-abiding citizens, simply because they're exercising their right to free speech. We've seen people. Go ahead.
That's the thing,
Brandon.
right? So we've been to a couple of protests ourselves, and we've been to like a remote farm area. I'm not going to get too far into it other than that, but at the remote farm area, they had a huge drone ended up flying over us. Well, we had possibly close to 1,000 people congregated there, and it was just people telling their truths and sharing their stories and that kind of thing. And
Sure. Yeah.
like that was probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. That we were, what was it, 20 kilometers outside of a major city, and then we end up seeing the giant drone flying over us. Like, that was weird. They also used drones, I believe, at a couple of other protests in Chatham that you've been to. Like, what are they doing with that? They're there. They're getting everybody's faces, and they're sending people that they think are the organizers court summonses.
That's right. And you and I, we ended up at that place. We didn't know what was going on there, really. We
No.
were just told we should go out there. You and I went out, and this is what we witnessed, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this, the cops showed up there, and we didn't know, but that Chris Sky guy was invited to go and speak, and because he went out there, he brought the heat, right? The cops followed him out because for whatever reason, well, you can draw your own conclusions on that, but he showed up and brought the cops with him, and their drone, and then they got footage of everybody that was there, and in this remote location. And you and I, we had no idea what was going on. We didn't know Chris Sky was going to be there, and
No.
selling all of his merchandise, and taking home a wheelbarrow full of money. We didn't know that, but that's what was going on.
Yeah.
And that gave the cops reason to go out. And anyway, it just seems, I guess, you can argue, well, they could be terrorists. There could be dangerous people in the crowd, so we better get aerial footage. And I suppose it helps the police service justify.
Hey, look.
It's
That's
Carla.
That's Carla.
That's our Carla, our person in the street.
Anyway, it makes me feel uncomfortable when police use drones for that purpose. I sort of understand on the one hand, but it just, in some ways, it just feels so inappropriate. Do you really need to go that far? Do you really? A lot of these people are like from, a lot of these people are like the church ladies that sell pies at their local bake sale. You look around at those crowds, and it's just average, everyday people out there worried about losing their rights and freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was going on.
And it's funny because with all the things, how many times we mention this, and the convoy and the protesters and people being interviewed, and all this information out there, like you're tripping over it on the internet of what this convoy stands for, and you still have people trying to like slander this to something of what else it is. I just had it here. Give me a moment. All right. No, I didn't. But it's just, I don't understand how a lot of people can get that sensation from watching the live footage. Like they're playing hockey in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how Canadian is that? That's awesome.
Did we show footage of that?
No, I don't think we did.
Maybe we can find some footage from one of the appropriate feeds. I did see some earlier this afternoon of what was going on down there in that regard. And I've always had incredible respect, and I always, when I worked as a reporter, police services overall very professional. Always had great relationships with really every police service I ever dealt with, and the officers overall, they're all great people. But when thrown into a situation like this, where government is putting them in a position of, where they need to enforce measures that are heavy-handed, the light touch, the community policing approach seemed to have been thrown in the trash.
I think that's been thrown in the trash for a long time now. The average Canadian's interaction with a police officer is they're just out there to police vehicles. Like hardly ever do cops like stop like a pedestrian who's doing something wrong. They're always looking for traffic. They stay in their cars. They don't go out and interact with people. That is largely the thing, and I think that has caused a great divide between police and citizens, is that you just have this thing, this person, but this person is really just a car, and they don't interact with anything that's outside of them. I think that's a big part of why we have things that have gone this way, is that they're not interested in talking with people, and you have to be very careful when you talk to them. I've only had positive interactions with police officers personally. Mostly because like my old neighborhood was a crime-ridden hellhole, and so I had to call the police quite frequently, mostly for people's safeties and life-threatening incidences and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, with my experience, it was usually pretty positive, but like, I think a big part of it is they aren't interested in community policing like they used to be.
No, there's more keeping the peace, and there's only also you got to think the way the economy is going. There's only so many that they can afford to employ. A staff. It's a business just like anything else, right? So there's always going to be those factors. You hear reports
Do you
of
guys understand what I mean by community policing?
like kicking cats out of trees,
No, that's not community policing.
or you
Community
mean like the
policing is
community
more.
policing itself?
No, it means that police reach out and become more involved in the community. They get out of their cruisers, they get on bicycles. They have a cop walking downtown interacting with people. The focus becomes very much on public safety.
No,
And
yeah.
it's not about walking around trying to use a heavy hand against people.
No.
It's about a certain degree of tolerance and discretion, right? So that we don't end up living in a police state. It allows police to take a measured approach to when they're on the street and dealing with the public, and it's an effort to build trust with people, so that they don't feel like they're in a police state and that they're not in a police state. It's about community standards, and there's a lot of philosophy that goes into this. But when you have a tyrant running the country, it all flows down from there. And the public trust in police and a lot of our public institutions has been severely damaged. Public trust in public health, the public's trust in government, the public's trust even in policing. Because when you have cops arresting kids for playing ice hockey on a pond, or handing out tickets for people tobogganing,
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
That is not community policing.
No,
No.
And it may be done in the name of safety, but that has been an aberration, a distortion. It was an abuse by government of these powers. And they've been using and manipulating police service, in my view, to achieve, to use them as heavies, to get people to comply with what they want. It's been entirely inappropriate. It's done, I hope, not irreparable damage, but it might be irreparable in this country. This is the way police in other countries that are not free act. You've seen it even in Montreal, especially in places like Montreal, in Quebec, curfews, people being arrested for walking down the street, tickets for walking your dog. Disgusting.
We gotta comment on this here. So I may or may not be trying honesty. Honestly, the worry of being surveilled in public seems irrational. That's absolutely not true, because we've had a suspension on charter rights where you're not allowed to protest anything. They sit back in their car and they watch you. They take pictures of you, and then they find out where you live. They come to your house and they give you a summons to court. Like, this is exactly the very reason, over the past 2 years, we've seen exactly the very reason why we do not need a police surveillance in the public. Like, all the tools that have been implemented to keep you safe in the past 2 years has been used against citizens. Like, it's a terrible thing. This is awful.
Well, you've seen division now even within police services. And that's what Justin Trudeau has been doing from the beginning, is dividing people. And now you have divisions within the policing community. That's why you have police on guard over here, and then the police services over here working and doing the government's bidding, right? and trying to find the right balance and struggling with it. And in some cases, getting it right. And in some cases, maybe not getting it quite so right because it's a little confusing. But man, I'll tell you, like, so there's a division there.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry, but I need to take a 1 minute to put me in the green room.
Sure.
Well,
So, and I don't mean to be overly critical of police. It's happened across our institutions. Everything, public health, municipal governments, provincial governments, all these different ministries, everything has been affected, our entire way of life. It's extremely unfortunate. And the country will never be the same after this. Even if these mandates are taken away, even if the governments decide that, and it looks like some of this stuff is being swept aside now, it looks like we're on a path to more normalcy, but we're never going to be the same again. Canada has lost a lot of its innocence, I think, through this pandemic.
definitely, because like us as a nation, we have done some questionable things in the past, but a lot of that has been swept under the rug for a long time. So a lot of people didn't see it. And like you said, yeah, it's not the same now. It's kind of the point we've brought these things to light. And then what's been going on these last 2 years, it's just got worse. And it's like, this is the way it is, guys. We got to take our lickings for this. And, as a country, do what we got to do. Or there's so many layers to all of this, isn't there? With everything, there's just so many layers. It makes it so difficult to really make any real decisions and choices about a lot of stuff.
And it's layers of corruption, not necessarily illegal corruption, but moral and financial corruption. And that's why a lot of our even business institutions, corporations, business groups like chambers of commerce, they've been in a way captured by these political interests, by the Liberals, by Justin Trudeau,
Just
through
funding.
Through funding, right? And through government programs and the threat, even if not expressed, it's just realized that if you don't fall into line as a company, then you don't get this grant, or you don't get to participate, or your competitors are going to get this free money, but you won't.
Yeah.
Or this regulation is going to be imposed on your industry, or you're not going to get this regulatory protection. So all these companies feel compelled to fall into line in a way, and not even in a way, it is actually a very fascistic economic system that has been unfolding and evolving in Canada over time. And as a result, that's why we've seen chambers of commerce very guilty of this across the country at the national, provincial, and even local levels. And it's all trickling down. They all have adopted this policy, these various policies that have been, they're falling into line behind whatever the government tells them to do. And it's because of exactly what I'm talking about. They want government investment in their communities, in their businesses, and they don't want to put any of that at risk. So whatever the government says, that's what they're going to do. And if their businesses have been locked down and the government's telling them the only way forward is to have all of your employees comply and get vaccinated, then those companies will apply pressure on those employees, because those companies only care about profits, and they're going to make sure that they do whatever they can to stay open and do business. It all flows that way. And Justin Trudeau knows that. That's why you've seen the Canadian Trucking Alliance come out
and say what they're saying.
And say exactly what they're saying, that they're against this protest, against the convoy. But the Trucking Alliance doesn't represent the drivers. The Trucking Alliance represents trucking companies mainly.
Yeah, they care about their interests. That's it.
That's right.
That's
and
it.
They don't want the government. They want the government to give them favorable regulations, and they're in league with the government.
Yeah.
And in league with these companies. Anyway, it's that's the way everything is kind of set up now.
It's a debt-based society. It's fantastic.
Yes, and Larry, you're quite right. Brian Peckford is suing the federal government. He's the last survivor, the last remaining, the last person alive who helped draft and approve the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And it's no small thing. He is taking the federal government to court because they've been violating it. And people should look up more information on that. Jordan Peterson did a great interview with him that explains a lot of this in depth. And that in itself is a pivot point, a milestone on the road to hopefully resolving a lot of these problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how the courts ultimately end up dealing with it. But it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And that one is real. There have been a lot of other things going on with lawsuits and legal papers handed to public officials by citizens and talk about common law and all of these kinds of things. A lot of that stuff has been not effective. But this, from Mr. Peckford, former premier, that's got real teeth. That is real.
Do you think if the truckers are successful and then it does go to the Supreme Court, what do you think might happen if that is the case? Like, if everything's over and then it gets to the Supreme Court, like, what could be the effects of that? Like, could it be something like we'll never see anything like this again?
You mean with regard to
Brian Peckford?
Yeah. If that is successful, and I think ultimately it will be, it will redraw the political landscape in the country. I think the political parties will have to reform. It will result in a restoration of our rights and freedoms to a large degree. And I think that the political parties will be forced, indirectly, but forced. They'll have to do it because of the way that it all unfolds. They'll have to reshape their parties, and you'll see at least one party, maybe multiple parties, put rights and freedoms front and center and at the core of their values and their platforms as parties. And that's what people will see begin to reform. That's what was at the heart of Canada from the beginning.
Yes.
That was at the heart of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms back in the 1980s. And what you really have here today is a political movement, political forces with a global focus, not Canadian, not nationalistic, not patriotic. It's just the opposite. They want these rights stripped away. They want the language of the Charter and Rights and Freedoms stripped away to pave the way for more international control over everything that we do. And that's what these vaccine passports are largely about as well. It's not just about Canada. These things are tied in digitally to a global database. And it's all about global governance.
Fuck, this guy can't even run the country. What does he think he can do help running the world?
Hey, I have something breaking here. We all kind of missed it today. So we did get a statement from the Premier Doug Ford. If you guys are interested, I could read that off here. It is from the National Post.
Yes.
So the Ontario Premier Doug Ford was on the defensive when asked why he waited until Monday to receive a statement condemning the trucking convoy in Ottawa. Ford said, well, he appreciated the effort of truckers throughout the pandemic, delivering healthcare supplies to hospitals and food to grocery stores. He said he would not tolerate the desecration of monuments. The desecration of war monuments or any memorials, I have zero tolerance for that. And the flags they're waving around are disgusting in my opinion, Ford said. But the other thing is, there's 1 million people that live in Ottawa. I hear you. I hear the protesters. The province hears the protesters. The country hears the protesters. Now it's time to let the people of Ottawa get back to their lives. These businesses, that have been closed for a while now, the restaurants want to reopen.
We know that. We've been trying to tell you that.
No, the restaurants can reopen and feed all the people who are there protesting. There's a whole lot of them, and that's a whole lot of business.
Yep. Now,
So he goes on
hotels are
here.
doing a
Sorry.
booming business.
Oh yeah, probably more than they've seen in 2-3 years. So it goes on to say,
tourism.
yeah, it says here the letter said pandemic pummeled small businesses need help to recover from financial losses. You mean Doug Ford has pummeled small businesses? Well,
Right.
Yeah.
well, frontline workers have lost wages because their workplaces have closed due to the protests or because they fear for their own safety. Our neighbors in Centertown who have had their homes and streets trashed, oh, that is fake news. Trash needs support to clean up. We are asking you to step in immediately with financial support to make this happen right away. So, fake news.
For
Fake
a
news.
fake
Fake
second
news.
there, two things. One, Rick, can you pull up in the private chat? I got a little clip here on a page here. It's street hockey.
Yeah.
Some kids playing street hockey. So this is the people who are terrified to go to work, and we're going to see why. And now, that being said, for that, since a lot of our politicians are making a lot of assumptions with what's going on and using specific rhetoric, I'm going to assume that the flags that Doug Ford was talking about, the flags that he saw waving around and all these flags, I'm going to assume he was talking about the Canadian flags, because the rest of us just completely ignored that bullshit that we've already covered in the last few days. But I think one assumption's fair for another, isn't it? Right? So
Well,
clearly he's not really with us.
I think this goes to show how out of touch he is. He has no touch with the common people. He won his last campaign by reaching out to blue-collar people.
Construction guy to Canadian flag guy. Canadian flag guy. Number 19 stops the plate.
I am so scared to go to work.
Oh
now.
my God,
Right,
the
you can
horror.
I might get a slap shot in the face. That'd be the worst, I'd say. And now, of course, this is a lot of jokes, guys. Obviously, we're not saying that.
They held a
this is-
protest and a hockey game broke out.
Like, I'm surprised there wasn't a fight in that hockey game. Jeez, it's not a hockey game without a fight, right? But
Oh, the horror.
I'm terrified.
Doug Ford should just step down.
Oh goodness,
resign.
yes. People across the world right now are laughing at our politicians. They're like, "Wait, this is what? This is the most peaceful thing we've seen in the last 5 to 6 years. What are you talking about?" Yeah, they're getting just bamboozled by other countries and some of the other news reporters that more of the other news agencies like in the States and so forth. And
I'm just stepping out for just a moment, guys, while I deal with another internet thing here. Just one moment, leaving you
Sure.
alone.
Oh, change the camera. There you go. So,
hi, coming to you from an empty chair.
we have Doug Ford making the statement here. It's out of touch. It's total. Like, do you think that he has looked at anything other than like fake news to come to that conclusion?
I don't want to use that choice word, but I think he has been looking at mainstream media for sure. And yeah, like, I'm sorry. Like, you just take a quick little search. You just go to YouTube and you go Ottawa Live. Click. You can find what's been happening on the ground. You can see it for yourself. It takes a bit of time to go through some of the footage. But if you're really going to be a hard ass about being opposing to it, but not even willing to look into this stuff, just use your eyes, because your eyes won't lie. It's raw footage. It's I don't understand how that's hate. Hate's changed a lot since I was a kid.
Oh, I think we're gonna start to see hate change back.
I'm hoping
Because,
so. Like, bad choice of words. The definition of what hate and how it's being implemented and all these things. I think people just need to stop assuming everything's so personal, and that way it's the best way to go about it, because it's not all about you or me, or it's all of us at the same time, right?
Yes. because I've connected with a lot of people over the past year, and one of the things that really resonates with me is that just about everybody has more or less the same opinion on a lot of things, like how fake, how news is putting like a inappropriate spin on things, how the issues that the government says are issues in Canada are like don't matter to anybody, like the government focusing excessively on racism and other stuff. A lot of these things don't matter to anybody I know, and the people that it did seem to matter to were people who drive like 2020 Ford Lincolns and stuff like that. And I don't have anything wrong with that, but you have somebody who is clearly not oppressed, and they're like, oh, I'm so oppressed, and it's like, I'm going to go in my Ford Lincoln now and drive home to my really expensive home and stuff like that. It makes no sense whatsoever. Like, no sense. Yeah, Doug Ford's daughter was down there. And Doug Ford's daughter, Krista Hayes, does not like anything that's been going on for the past years. It's kind of an interesting contrast to Justin Trudeau and his younger brother.
Yeah, and the way he said it, it was literally very brotherly. Like, come on, dude, like, smarten up, like, just come on, bro, come on, man, get your head out of your ass, kind of thing. Like, he's trying to be his brother and he's trying to help him out. Like, come on, man, come on, And it was very Canadian the way he did it, to be honest.
This was footage downtown just before the sun went down in Ottawa, right near Parliament Hill.
Nice.
Is it just me, or is it all the footage we've seen today? Things are more livelier than they were yesterday.
Well, it did seem kind of quiet. It was a Monday. Come on.
No, it's just an observation.
Well, the horns just keep going. This is the front line in what is the most recent battle in this war over vaccine mandates. It's all happening right here, and these truckers are modern Canadian soldiers in a peaceful battle against our government. They want Justin Trudeau to step down or get rid of all the mandates.
I'd just like to interject here. The comment there, I may or I may not be trying. I disagree. Your rights are not other people's responsibilities. They're your own responsibility, which is why you need to fight for them. That's why if someone else doesn't know your rights, they don't have to acknowledge them. Period. How do you fight that? You fight for your rights. Having rights it is a responsibility. It's not just a privilege, right? You have an obligation to do the right thing to ensure that those rights are still yours and kept. And if everybody does that, and as long as you don't infringe upon the rights of others, everything's fine.
And my rights and your rights do not infringe where other people's fear begins.
Yeah, there's one thing, I don't know if you guys have been hearing this at all. I've heard this a lot over the last few years. Everybody has the free to have an opinion, have the right to do what they choose, as long as it doesn't affect someone else negatively.
You see how they're moving the snow plows in there and the snow removal equipment? They're using that equipment to block access for the trucks getting into downtown. And as a result, there are concerns that when it snows tonight or over the next day or two, and there's snow coming in apparently, that the city will not be removing snow properly from there. So I have seen messages on Facebook in the public forums that they're asking people to come there with their own snow blowers and small gators and things with snow removal blades so they can get that stuff in there so the protesters can keep the streets clear and the emergency access open and make sure that everything is kept safe for people in the downtown Ottawa area. So I know that they put out a request for people to provide support in that way. And in addition, they've been moving fuel in there for these trucks because they have to keep them fueled so that they can keep them warm and keep people sheltered from the cold. And they've been doing a lot of that at night. And they've also been bringing more trucks in at night. They're sort of doing end runs around some of the police blockades there. And
Well,
again,
they not-
that footage was from John Nisbet.
It looks like they do as well. Are going to be having some. They have a weather advisory, so they are going to be having some snow coming in multi-day. Should be from tonight through Friday. It's saying hazards total snowfall accumulation of 10 to 20 centimeters by Friday.
Yeah.
So that it could get a little slick out there.
Who's
So
going
I
to
think-
pay for the campaign based on rights, bro? I'm not sure what that means.
Neither am I.
Unpresentable.
Somebody who doesn't like rights.
Yes, I know that the truckers are looking for fuel, and I know that they've been asking for fuel donations. They've been bringing in fuel in jerry cans, walking it in to keep these trucks fueled so that the sleepers and the trucks are kept warm for the drivers and the protesters.
I think now might be a good as time as any to talk about the trucking convoy has made an impact on the Conservative Party of Canada, and we now have Conservative MPs asking for the removal of the leader.
Aaron O'Toole is toast.
Yeah,
Aaron.
sorry. Gonzo.
Oh yes, he's toast.
So
Yeah, we
Doesn't
don't-
get to this level and this point where Brendan, you can elaborate on this, but they're talking like there's a revolt now, and they want, they're going to take his head off and replace him.
Well, take a look at the difference in how MPs in Ottawa are handling this influx of truckers. You have some of them jumping right on board. You have Pierre Poilievre, who's starting to use terminology like freedom and explaining the harms of the lockdowns. You have Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, Leanne Rood, who is all on board with the truckers and has been spotted with the truckers multiple times. We do know that there's other people like Marilyn Gladue, who you get a sense that she has always been against these mandates, but has been not allowed to talk about them. Like, you could just tell that Aaron O'Toole has censored things so much. He's out of touch. One of his things that he said that we should implement is roadside trucking vaccine clinics. Like,
I just want to comment on Fix News, whoever you are. He says most Canadians have no respect for these obnoxious protesters. Be a patriot and get vaccinated to save Canadian lives like the rest of us have. We are the real patriots.
You guys realize that?
Well, you know what? One thing is pretty obvious, Fix News. You have no respect for a lot of Canadians. Yeah. Nor does Justin Trudeau. And you have no respect for people's rights, no respect for people's freedom of choice, no respect for a whole lot of people. And you've got a pretty smug attitude.
It's kind of starting to sound like Matt.
And I don't think there's anything patriotic about your position at all. I'll also go further and say that I think you are one very selfish person. Get vaccinated to protect you. And get vaccinated with a vaccine that our prime minister was triple jabbed with and still ended up with COVID. Yeah. Who's the real patriot?
It's true.
Who's
Just
the
a
real
moment. I'll be right
patriot?
back.
Who is the real patriot? Oh, so should we continue with
Yeah, back
our
to
update?
back to Mr. O'Toole.
Mr. O'Toole. So, as of last night, like this is how quickly this is going. 7:30 p.m. last night, MP Baugh Brenden has issued a statement, and they're going to do a vote on a leadership review, which would in effect have Aaron O'Toole kicked out of the caucus or kicked out of leadership. So I believe he would still be on the party. I kind of have a feeling that he might switch sides if that's the case, because he's always been a red conservative. His Twitter page was absolutely astounding, and I think it probably would be worth sharing what he had to say on Twitter here, because it is just grasping at straws, and it is the most pathetic behavior I have ever seen out of an MP ever. All right, so this is his Twitter page. So he starts off by saying, shortly after this announcement was made, there are two roads open to the Conservative Party of Canada. One is the road of Randy Hillier and Derek Sloan. It is angry, negative, and extreme. It is dead end, one that would see the Party of Confederation become the NDP of the right. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not turning back. Canada needs us to be united and serious. It is time for a reckoning, to settle this in caucus, right here, right now, once and for all. Anger versus optimism. That is the choice in simple terms. I will accept the results of this voice. The signers of this letter must accept it too. They brought it. They'll have to live with it. Rebecca and I are committed to our party and conservatism in Canada. We look forward to continuing the journey. So, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think there is anger, and I think it's justified. But it's not like anger toward the country. It's anger toward guys like Aaron O'Toole. It's anger over these vaccine mandates. It's anger over the violation of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the violation of our Constitution, the way that it's anger over our politicians and bureaucrats abandoning our traditions and the rule of law. It's anger over the politicians and bureaucrats abusing their positions and their power. It's anger over the abuse of Canadians. It's anger over people being locked down, their health and their welfare honestly being ignored and neglected. It's anger over young teenagers committing suicide because they become so depressed because people like Aaron O'Toole have ignored their needs for the past 2 years because they've been singular in focus on a fool's errand trying to stamp out a virus that many scientists, doctors, and other professionals have told them was not something that they could stamp out, and now they can't admit that they were wrong. So they're using a huge portion of the Canadian public as a scapegoat. They're using unvaccinated people as a scapegoat for their failure. Aaron O'Toole is no better than Justin Trudeau. He's maybe not quite as bad because I can't imagine
I think he's
anybody
worse.
being worse, but maybe he is worse.
I think he's worse because we've seen consistency with Justin Trudeau since the previous election. This guy doesn't know whether he's coming or going. Like, I think we need to make a massive campaign where everybody mails in some flip-flops for him because of how much he flip-flops, and I think that would make an excellent going-away present for him. The result of the last election is entirely his fault. The rise of the People's Party of Canada is entirely his fault. He has branched away from what things are supposed to be by going into liberal waters. Like, this guy is more liberal than probably some of the liberal MPs. Like, let's talk about the things he has flip-flopped on for just a moment here. So he's flip-flopped on the gun ban, where Justin Trudeau had initiated an illegal firearms ban. He's flip-flopped on What was the next thing there?
Sorry, I'm not following you. What do you mean the next thing?
We're going on through all the things Aaron O'Toole has flip-flopped on. He's flip-flopped on vaccination mandates, where we don't understand where he's coming or going with that, as you had to be vaccinated to volunteer for his campaign. You had to be pro mandates to basically run as a conservative MP in the previous election. This guy has ostracized his voter base entirely.
Well, he's alienated a lot of the people within his own party, obviously, and
Yes.
we've seen statements to that effect where they don't really like the guy, and he's done, man. Like, he can say what he wants there, but it doesn't get to this level in public. They want him gone because, and I think it's really this truckers' protest that has finally pushed it to this point. Aaron O'Toole is a guy who has been just saying whatever he thinks people want to hear, and he's been trying to. He thinks the only way he can win an election is to
Pander,
and yes, and to adopt a lot of the policies and platform planks of platform from the Liberals. So, because he thinks he needs the Liberal support in order to win a conservative government, and it hasn't really worked out for him. And some people even suggest that he might be controlled opposition, that he's really just there to help keep the uniparty in power.
Oh, he's flip-flopped on abortion. He flip-flopped on the CBC. That's when I was done with him. He was, when he got elected as the leader of the Conservative Party, he had vowed to, defund the CBC. And then he backtracked on that 100%. Like, absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. I don't know where any of that came from. Like, do you think that do you think he's been behind a lot of the weird statements we've seen come out of the Conservative Party in the past while? Like, it seems like they're really hush on talking about lockdowns and all that stuff, and then truckers roll into Ottawa, and then all the MPs just start ripping on it like really hard, except for him.
Sorry, do you think I think what is the?
Do you think he's censored a lot of the MPs over the past couple of years?
Oh, they're absolutely whipping their MPs to fall into line, but even our local member of parliament here, I have big issues with him, because through this, today he's saying he supports the truckers. But you have to read his words very carefully to understand that support is sort of soft, and it's really predicated on business interests, not on the health or the welfare or the concerns about the truckers' rights. And he made it pretty clear to us, and I think you were there, Brendan, that night when I spoke to him, and he said that a lot of these things are that we cherish. They're not rights at all. He says they're privileges. He says they're all privileges. So if it's just a privilege, that's stuff that can be taken away. This guy, Dave Epp, doesn't understand our Constitution. He doesn't understand our rights and freedoms, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And he's as dangerous as any of them. And he'll just say whatever he has to say to stay in power too. So I have a big issue with him. If you go to his website now and read his position on vaccine mandates, it seems more reasonable, and it seems like there is room there for accommodations for people who don't want to be vaccinated. But I'm very skeptical of that. And if you really read the language carefully, a lot of this is based on not just him, but you're hearing it from business groups, businesses, other politicians, chambers of commerce, the Trucking Alliance. You're hearing things like we need to put a pause on these mandates for truckers because we're concerned about the supply chain. We're concerned about inflation. It's going to if we don't have enough goods delivered to stores, it will just increase prices and fuel inflation. but they're never talking about the real core issue here, which is the people's rights. That's what's at the heart of all of this, and they don't even talk about that. In fact,
the only one who has is Polyev.
right. So when they use that kind of language, it sounds like they're supporting the truckers, but they're really just looking for a delay so that they
Yes.
can go back to an incremental method of imposing these restrictions and mandates and measures and violations of the charter. Just to do it a little bit more at a time. Just back off a little bit until we can figure out how we can finish implementing all of this and force people to do something against their will.
I'm going to make a bit of a prediction here. I predict whoever gets into interim leadership is whether it is the deputy leader. I can't remember her name for the life of me. She's very competent, though. I do appreciate the things that she is saying, though. Or it could be Pierre Polyev, one of the two. But I think what we're going to see is we're going to see them make statements saying that we want to mandate freedom, etc., etc. I think that's what's going to happen entirely with it. But because Aaron O'Toole is the leader right now, we're not going to see any of that until he's out of there. But I don't trust them at all until they make such a statement that we need all provincial and federal mandates to end in their entirety.
Yeah, well, as I say, I think that Aaron O'Toole is toast.
Yeah, he's so toast.
They're going to get rid of him, and that's because I think the conservatives now realize that they see an opportunity to support these truckers. Like a lot of Canadians, they're realizing that they're not alone in some of the views that they have. And so it's an opportunity for them to shift and claim some of this political ground on the other side that the Liberals are going to ignore. And it's interesting because in many respects, we're seeing we've been witnessing the political landscape reshaping and being redrawn over the past few years. The NDP,
I think it was lost. I think it was lost for a while. Like the conservative voice, which is going through massive growth right now, and you can see that especially when you look at programs like Greg Gutfeld on Fox. Here is Fox News giving people a late night TV show host, and everybody stopped watching Colbert. They stopped watching Jimmy Fallon. They stopped watching all these guys who are just left-wing shills, and they're going to watch Greg Gutfeld because more often than not, he's siding with things that more people think are right. There is a shift, and it is going more or less to the right. People don't want all this woke crap. If you go woke, you go broke, and we're going to see more and more of that. And that's why the Conservative Party lost hardcore. But our party lost because they had no feel for what they thought was right. Mainstream media and everything else has been crapping all over anything that is remotely right of center, or even they have shit all over anything that was basically right of center. And we're starting to see the real result of what regular people think. And that is who all of these people are supposed to serve in the first place, is what the regular people are.
Well, as I was trying to illustrate, these truckers, these truckers and blue collar workers are people that used to make up the base for the NDP and even the Liberals. And they have abandoned these voters, these truckers, these protesters. They don't even want them. They don't like them. They despise them.
Well, it goes against their agenda of being clean, and because these workers transport oil, gasoline. They use these things to burn fossil fuels to get them there. So to a degree, it goes completely entirely against what they're trying to stand for in the first place, with the whole green and carbon tax and trying to change everything over without having an actual solution.
Well, it's a larger agenda than even that. all of these isms, environmentalism, all of these things, they're being used as tools
Oh goodness, yes.
to dismantle industry, undermine huge portions of the Canadian economy, impose huge taxation on these people like these truckers, middle class, blue collar workers. They've been abandoned by the NDP. The NDP used to be the Workers' Party, the party of labor, right? Today, the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, that guy's very wealthy. He doesn't identify with workers. He has turned that party into a party of race. He is a racist.
Well, from what the last messages he shared, it certainly would seem so.
100%. That guy is a racist. He's all about division. His entire party is now based on a platform of racism. They use race as a tool. That's what it's all about. Everything comes down to race.
Hypocrites.
Race, 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 race. It's all they care about. Well, it's not just what they care about, but that's how they frame everything.
Yeah.
It's all about race. And
All right.
so that's what I mean. It's all being redrawn, right? That the political landscape is being redrawn. So now the Conservatives, who used to be viewed as the party of business, the People's Party of Canada, which is headed up by Maxime Bernier, former Conservative, right? A party founded on conservative ideas. These parties are now attracting people who used to be on the left, who used to be NDP members. You're seeing it, especially in the PPC. It's not just conservatives, it's people from across the political spectrum. But the one thing that is galvanizing everyone over there, it's not race, it's freedom.
Certainly right.
And it's woke stuff. Like, when we had known people in that movement in this past election, and it was nobody that the media said would be there. Absolutely nobody. It was everybody of every walk of life, whether it's gay couples who are looking to have a baby together, and they go to workshops to have a baby, and they're told you can't gender your baby because it'll entirely damage your baby for the rest of its life. And they go, wait, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't even sound right. Like, what are you talking about? It has taken all these people who know what it is to be human and know what it is to live in Canada, and they are rejecting ideas coming from their own political spectrum because they're garbage.
Well, I guess to keep the focus where it needs to be tonight, the point is these truckers have been abandoned by the political parties that used to pretend to support them, and they have no support now. And I don't know if they really have. They probably feel like they don't have any representation in Ottawa, and I think that that's true for a gigantic portion of the Canadian population today. There's no real representation for middle-class people. This is a war between the elite ruling class, the champagne socialists who are whining and dining themselves and enriching themselves at taxpayers' expense, and the working class and small business people. That's really what has become exposed here throughout this pandemic, and that's what's manifesting itself here right now. And a lot of these champagne socialists and elitists have sold out the country to foreign interests. And so when we talk about corruption, look right there, and you won't have to follow the money very far to figure out what's really going on.
We have any update on Alberta?
Yeah, let's take a look into that. I'm going to give Carla a call, so just give me a moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a bit of a dive here, see if I can find anything in regards to border cams or even just feeds that anybody's broadcasting, but I'm not finding anything.
Well, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot from down there because you've got police taking action now, doing whatever they're going to do. to try to keep that border open. And, we saw that those farmers and truckers did an end run around that roadblock that police had set up so that they could continue on and get down to where the blockade at the border was happening. Police were trying to prevent people from preventing more trucks from getting down there, and they just went right around that roadblock. So, I'll see if I can find that footage again for the people who missed it previously. But that was really something, and it kind of shows where we're going with this. There is tension building on the border, and I'm not happy about it, obviously, because we want to keep people safe, and you don't want to see these kinds of confrontations. But I think that's where, it is where it has gone. We're seeing that tonight. I'll have that footage from John Nisbet again here in just a moment.
No worries.
There we go. I found it. I got that clip. I'll get it queued up here for you.
Thank you for your patience, guys.
So this is near the Alberta-Montana border, and the police had this roadblock set up to prevent trucks.
Go! Go, truckers, go!
To prevent them from getting down there to the border where there are already a lot of trucks set up trying to blockade the border, and they just went right around that roadblock.
We don't need no stinking roads.
And you can see on the in the other lanes, the trucks and the vehicles driving the wrong way down that roadway. At least I think it's the wrong way. But they went right around that roadblock. And a lot of them. Look at all those vehicles.
Honk, honk, honk.
Okay, and this footage is from John Nisbet.
Truck Fudo.
Use that to you. Here we go. Might as well. More the merrier.
And there they go in that vehicle right around the roadblock too. So that is what is going on in Alberta tonight.
Oh, it's just gonna, it's gonna be like it's calming down and not calming. Like, I'm trying to think of the proper terminology.
Well, it's evolving. That's what's going on, and it's actually escalating. So even though some people have left Ottawa because they've gone back to work, and they needed to do that, and you still have a lot of truckers down there, not just downtown, but they're parked in parking lots around the city and out at the airport and wherever the police staged them over the weekend. And at night, and even during the day sometimes, they're still finding ways to get into the downtown. They're bringing fuel into those vehicles downtown. And out of frustration, we've seen this spill over into Alberta now, where we have action being taken on the Alberta-Montana border. And we see, again, out of frustration, people going right around police roadblocks, trying to prevent more vehicles from getting to the border. So what is likely to happen now? My guess is you're going to see more escalation on both sides. We've seen the federal government talking about implementing even harsher restrictions by implementing interprovincial vaccine mandates, so that truckers moving goods from one province to another will be stopped and will have to show proof of vaccination in order to cross, say, from Ontario into Quebec or
Hey,
from one province to another. Yes.
breaking news. Pat King is actually streaming live. Did you want the link here?
I don't know.
He's actually having an interview with so what's the video, Ted here? Our dear friend Rainmaker.
No, let's not put
No,
that
I
in.
think we'll just
got-
hold off.
We got Carla coming on in the next 10-15 minutes. She is coming in off the streets in Ottawa. She's telling me she has some important updates to share in regards to what the police are doing in Ottawa. So we are going to get some new updates of everything that's happened there today very shortly. So that's going to be coming on with our person on the street, and it won't be long.
So if we see escalation at the border, and I think we probably will, it's going to put police services in a very difficult position again, where they try to find a balance between the right for people to protest and the need to keep public safe and keep and provide access to the border, to keep goods and services flowing and maintain the rule of law. And enforce the laws as it relates to the Highway Traffic Act and all of these other regulations. So, and I think there will be pressure from government on police services to act. And that's why we're seeing, I think, swift action down there by the police service in Alberta. They don't want this to spread. My guess is they will try to make an example of the truckers and the farmers and the protesters there, because they are going to try and send a message: don't try this anywhere else. You can expect, I think, arrests there, charges to be laid, and they'll probably try to yank these vehicles. I hope and pray that everything remains peaceful, that no one is hurt, and that things don't escalate to a point where there's any kind of violence. Police have already indicated in their media release, the RCMP, that this is not a peaceful protest in their view, and that is concerning, because if they're using that kind of language in their media releases, it sets it up for the use of at least some degree of force by police at the scene there in Alberta, and that's always a concern. I hope that everyone keeps a level head. I hope police are able to go in there and use some discretion and deal with this in a level-headed, even-handed way. And I hope the truckers do the same. I hope the protesters do the same. And I hope they keep their wits about them, and may all of them remain safe tonight.
I have some footage on the street from 15 minutes ago.
The Canadian government is at odds with its own people tonight, and a large portion of them. Canada has lost a lot of its innocence, and we're still losing our innocence. You want me to bring up some footage here, Brendan?
Yeah, it's from the last 15 minutes. So, look at
and
that.
as you can see, and it's just, it is at this point peaceful, right? But I don't know. Can we get a little bit of audio, please? Do you have any?
Yeah, we can try.
A little bit more.
Can you hear it?
Still no, I don't have any audio. It's okay. Let's see if looks like the feed keeps kind of cutting out a bit there, but we've got it.
How about now?
Yeah, I think we're okay. I can't really hear much, but we've got the gist of what's going on, right? Yeah, it's up all the way. It is what it is.
Yeah, I can't hear you like that. It's just honk, honk, honk.
Yeah, in your earphones, sure. Just keep it playing, Brendan. Just keep it playing.
Okay.
I'm going to just step out for just a second and see if I can address this internet issue then. One moment.
Okay. So while we have Rick Walker out with that, we do have Carla coming on. She's the person who has been providing us with this footage, and she is going to be coming on the show to share with us any updates that have been happening in Ottawa for today. She is our person on the ground. We've had a lot of different things happen today. We've seen Quebec drop their vaccine tax that they had tabled and were going to bring and pass against people. We have convoys that are blocking the route into the Alberta-Coots border crossing, with RCMP escalating things on their end, where they are. If there is action on that, I believe it'll probably happen tonight. We have Doug Ford condemning all the actions of the protesters, and we also have Aaron O'Toole. Looks like he is toast and will be removed as leader from the the Federal Conservative Party of Canada.
Are these First Nations flags? I don't recognize the one on the left. Do you know what those flags are?
Yeah, that's
any
a
idea?
First Nations flag with the feathers. I've never seen it before, but it's got First Nations symbols on it.
Mm-hmm.
This has been stated before, but I think it's worth stating again. You can definitely tell a lot of people from Quebec have showed up for this, and most of them have been impacted by these sorts of things.
Mason Free Party says City of Ottawa says it is reviewing its options for snow removal in the downtown core, while the Freedom Convoy demonstration continues to leave heavy trucks parked on Wellington Street. And yes, as we indicated earlier, there are some people who are helping, I guess, to coordinate things down there, and they have been asking for the public to provide support by bringing in gators and snow blowers and other snow removal equipment, so that if the city is not removing snow, then the truckers and the protesters will do it themselves down there to keep things cleared, to shovel away the snow and to try and keep things safe for everyone, and to make sure that emergency lanes and so forth are kept open for emergency vehicles and emergency access.
It is going to be tough though, because without even if everyone does help out and start removing the snow, where are they going to put it?
Do you have audio on that, Brendan? Is that up?
No, if I do, it won't play because I turned it up all the way before it didn't come through.
Well, she's going to be joining us very shortly, right? So
yeah,
looking forward to that, because she is awesome. That's Carla, and she is a nurse who lost her job because of the vaccine mandates, and she's on the scene in Ottawa. She's been out gathering footage, and she really has a good bead on what is happening on the ground there, and she'll be sharing her observations with us and giving us a good perspective, I think, of how many trucks are there, how much support the core group of truckers has, what's being done to keep those rigs fueled up so that they're still warm, and providing shelter in what is really, really cold weather. And what is the temperature going down to tonight? Did we look up a weather forecast?
We did while you had disappeared there for the first time.
What's it going down to? It's got to be like minus 25, minus 30 at night down there.
Actually, it's warming up a little bit. We could expect some snow and rain mix over the next coming days. It is negative 10 in Ottawa currently. Or negative 8, excuse me. Negative 8.
Yeah, so it's only -8 there right now. But it's probably warming up a bit because there is a snow front moving in, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
warms up a little bit, more moisture in the air, you get more snow.
Snow tonight, snow and rain tomorrow, snow on Thursday. So they're going to be buckling in for that. What they are going to do for snow removal, who knows? I'll bet you a lot of these trucks carry their own emergency shovels and stuff like that. So I could imagine they're going to take care of it that way. Plus, with what you said before about people bringing in gators and snow removal and that sort of thing. I do know a couple of people who live in the Ottawa area, and all of them that I've talked to are pro truckers.
Well, I did see people wheeling in diesel fuel in jerry cans last night. I did see trucks being discreetly maneuvered into place down side streets and positioned in the downtown area. Trucks that had been placed out in the outskirts of the city previously. So the efforts to bring in trucks continue there, and the efforts to fuel them continue. And I have seen requests for people to bring in snow removal equipment. But whether that has happened to this point, I have not seen any snow blowers or gators or anything being moved in, but the request is out there, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if people respond.
I just received an update from Rebel News from one of my people keeping an eye out on things, and they have let me know that Alberta tow truck companies are refusing to assist RCMP in removing border blockade. And that came in just now. 6 hours
Very
ago.
interesting. And there's another small piece of the escalation, right? So now the tow truck operators are taking a stand as well. What are they going to do now? And
just to touch on what you said on the weather real quick there, I bet you there's a lot of people who had followed the convoy who didn't expect to have such a wet cold in Ontario compared to what they have out there.
Well, you have to ask yourself, guys, too, if you were a tow truck operator and you got a call to go down there and yank tow trucks or yank transport trucks from this protest, would you want to do it? Would you want to go down there and go toe to toe with or meet face to face with a trucker or a bunch of truckers?
Yeah, well, surrounded by more of truckers. Them. It's not just a basic repo, you know.
You go down there with your tow truck and you're wading right into the heart of a hornet's nest, right? Mm-hmm. So, and by showing up with your tow truck, you become the spark that could set off that powder keg.
You never know.
I mean, it depends on how police handle it and whether they how much protection they can give you. But if I had a tow truck, I really wouldn't want to be the one going down there.
No.
You get a bunch of guys who are upset. Who knows what might happen? And I wouldn't want to be the guy who ended up setting off the explosion, metaphorically speaking, right?
Now, what if it also would depend a little bit on the attitude of said tow truck driver too, right? Because they could have set it off themselves, like intentionally or indirectly, or unintentionally, rather, of their own action.
They just show up.
That's
what you got to do. Okay, I'm here to tow your truck away from this giant protest where,
Sorry.
I'm just going to hook on to the front here. You 500 truckers, excuse me, while I start to tow all your trucks.
Now, the problem here too is they have to remain peaceful, like the protest. Like, I know everyone always says, well, push comes to shove, but their best action is to literally just stay peaceful. Because at the end of the day, if they go violent or if they even open that door, the government's prepared for that response. We all know this. They always have been. They know the answers to deal with that. But if they continue being peaceful, doing everything by the law, regardless of how inconvenient it is for everybody and anything that's involved or whatever, So regardless, how do you take out those frustrations in a tyrannical way when they're literally just following the law, And like, it's over time, it's just going to get more blatant and more blatant and more blatant. And it's like, but we still haven't broken the law. We've been here for 3 weeks. We haven't done anything wrong. Are you trying? But you know what I mean? So it would remove a lot of the credibility, even more so, of the dictator or the person trying to impose the overreach even more so to try to deal with the scenario.
Except that, Chris, these truckers are really breaking the law by setting up a blockade. They are actually breaking laws in Ottawa, even as we speak, where these trucks are sitting on the road blocking roads.
But
it may be viewed as a peaceful protest. It is, but that's how these protests go. This is a form of strike, okay? And this is where the pressure is applied. So that's how police also have leverage against them and government. So, and this development on the border is an escalation. It is serious. And this is something that will cost businesses, corporations, big money, because it's going to impede the flow of traffic, disrupt the flow of goods across the border, shipments, disrupt factories.
Yeah, but that's the Alberta
refineries, everything.
Yeah, I was more so referencing just Ottawa standstill, like the border issue is definitely serious. That, like you said, it's an escalation. That's a key indicator that this is starting to really evolve, and it's going to become something closer to what it's really going to be, regardless of what's happened in Ottawa this last weekend.
You're quite right, though. It is a trap. Violence is a trap for the protesters. If the police respond with force and the truckers push back in any violent way at all, if they resist, then this whole thing takes on a completely different color, a different flavor. Creates the
justification.
Well, it not only creates, it's not just about justification, it's about optics. And it now the media,
poor choice of words,
will portray this in a completely different light. Well, it actually plays into the narrative that they've been setting up from the beginning, where they're concerned about violent protesters.
So
you back somebody into a corner, though. You take a dog and you back that dog into a corner, and it feels threatened. It might bite you, and then as soon as it bites you, you say, "Well, see, that dog bites."
Well, it has
that dog has to be put down. It bites, but they back it into a corner. So that's what's going on here, and that's the danger. That's why they need to be smart, and they need to take the Gandhi approach, and just lay down. Just lay down and let them carry them away. You see that even with Pastor Arthur Pavlovsky, when they arrest the pastor, he doesn't resist. He just lays down and they carry him away in cuffs.
Yeah, and because that sends a stronger message than you trying to resist.
It's about being passive.
Yeah,
you don't want to get violent. You don't want people to get hurt, but but you back a dog into a corner and it might just bite you.
Yeah,
and that's the problem we're facing here, right?
That's why I always get asked the question. If someone's like, "Oh, you have a dog. Does it bite?" And you're like, "Well, it has teeth. It can." And it's kind of the same idea. It's like, well,
Linda has a good point here. Takes a certain type of tow truck to tow a transport. Do you think a tow truck is going to bite the hand that feeds them? How many truckers will use those tow trucks in future? They have a long memory, and also they're like the same kind of people. Like these big transport or these big tow trucks that can tow transports, they're the same kind of licensing, I would wager, and they're the same kind of blue collar people.
That's
like
right.
They're on the tow trucks team, and clearly, if Rebel News is right in reporting this,
I'm sure they are.
I'm sure they are. I know they have a history of some embellishment, but I wouldn't say it's as bad as what we've seen on the other side. If anything is remotely true with that, the RCMP is not going. This is not going to be over because the RCMP doesn't have the equipment to tow any of these trucks away.
No, they don't. All that work is outsourced to private tow companies. That's the case everywhere. and yeah, very interesting development, and we'll see what happens, man. But that's reinforcements for the truckers from the tow truck operators.
We have, and if anything does go down, I think you made a point about this already. If something does happen, it's going to be happening at night. Something tells
Probably.
me.
In Alberta right now, I don't know. We're not close enough to that to really make a call. But generally, I think police wait until an opportunity where there's the least chance for violence or things to get out of hand. They look for things to be timed properly so that they can do whatever they have to do at the least, the most opportune moment, when it's least likely to have somebody hurt, when it's easiest to keep people safe. These are the things they keep in mind. So who knows what kind of strategy they need to employ there, but there are other factors that they need to consider as well, and they might do it during the day. It's hard to say. It's very, very hard to say. Depends on how things evolve and what the truckers do. But you see what it's getting into the evening there, and that's why they've been trying to get the tow truck operators to come in, and they're trying to get this thing coordinated and lined up.
And you bet it's going to be cold out there tonight too.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of the officers are relieved that the tow trucks aren't coming, because they probably don't want to have to deal with it. If I was an officer, this is not something that I would enjoy. I'm sure none of them are enjoying it.
No, and if anybody understands or has their finger on the pulse of how crazy all these mandates has made society, like living in Ontario and my community, there was a direct correlation between the amount of police calls received before and the amount of police calls received during the pandemic. It used to level out at 80 calls a day or something, and then it was hitting numbers like 120, 150, on some busy weekends, 180. And that's just calls. They don't tell you what those calls are about, but you could bet your bottom there's a direct correlation between lockdowns and what the police have been experiencing. They don't like dealing with all these domestic disputes and stuff like that. They know exactly what's going on. I'd even seen a lecture last night given by there was somebody who was a RCMP member who was on Justin Trudeau's security detail, and he had resigned in regards to being forced to be vaccinated. So there's a lot of people that would be connected to that individual who would agree with him, and maybe they go and comply and they say, well, if I just do this now, then maybe I don't have to do anything, and blah, blah, blah. So they know what's going on, like the police officers, and there's been a lot of them who have been censored and shut down, not allowed to speak out about this.
Well, it's always difficult. Anytime a police officer makes a public statement in any political kind of way at all, especially if they're wearing their uniform, it's generally deemed to be inappropriate.
Of course it is, because they're supposed to be partisan, entirely partisan.
You mean nonpartisan?
Nonpartisan, yeah.
Well, they're supposed to be apolitical.
Yeah, because
not only to be apolitical, but be seen to be apolitical.
And that's the unfortunate part about this, is that all these, when you take health boards and then you mix them with politics, you get you this kind of tyranny. Like, they have
aerial footage from this afternoon on Parliament Hill. So people who are thinking that this protest might fizzle out and people would just go home.
There's still quite a few there.
That's not the case today, even on Tuesday. The crowd's certainly not as big as it was.
No.
But you can hear the trucks. There's a lot of them, a lot of vehicles still parked in the downtown. And it's still a very sizable crowd. That's a big protest. These are the people that Justin Trudeau says have unacceptable views.
A small fringe minority.
These are the fringers.
Oh, look, there's a police column walking through.
Mm-hmm.
Two,
From
five,
every report
6.
I've heard from people here, they have been saying that the police have been doing great. They've been nothing but amazing. I've seen evidence of that as well, and that's awesome to hear, especially with considering all the craziness we've heard of the last few years and some of the other stuff, right? But
That's true. Police have public safety as their priority right up front. Like that's what they're concerned about. And
it's good.
And these officers are members of the community too. They're our neighbors.
Yeah,
right?
They're merely human beings with a set of tools, just like any profession.
But when you're in a position of authority, when you are a senior officer, when you're a chief of police, when you're a medical officer of health, when you're a politician or a bureaucrat in charge, you're also in a position of leadership, and with that leadership comes responsibility to uphold the rule of law, to defend the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, to defend the Constitution, to do the right thing, not just follow orders and not just protect your paycheck or your pension.
It's called integrity.
Well, it is. And sometimes people have to step down from jobs because they disagree with maybe the directive that's coming from a higher place, like the Prime Minister's office or a Premier's office. That's why I say a lot of these people, any of them that have supported what's gone on over the past 2 years, any of them that have supported the violation of the Charter, people's rights, if you are in charge and your officers are out there arresting kids playing ice hockey on a pond, you've got no business holding your position. You need to be replaced because you've done nothing to protect the people that you really serve. You do not serve the Prime Minister or the Premier. You don't serve some bureaucrat above you. If you've allowed things like that to happen, you've betrayed the people who pay your paycheck. And you should all be thinking long and hard about it. I've been so disappointed in the actions that I've seen over the past 2 years from people that I thought I would never see anything like this come from before. Never thought it would ever happen. Could never imagine it. And yet they fall right into line. They've fallen right into line. And they've just allowed it and even encouraged it through their own words in the media. I've never been so disappointed. I have cried over this, as many, many Canadians have, as I've watched this country slip away to a point where we are now literally in a state of war. It's a new form of warfare, and it's all been peaceful, but that's what we're looking at here. And these truckers are the frontline soldiers right now, representing, honestly, the Canadian people, including the Canadians who don't understand what they're really fighting for or why, who don't understand the importance of these rights, who don't understand that by complying the way that they have, it might have been a personal choice. That's fine. But for a lot of people, it hasn't been a choice. And if other people's choice and rights have been stripped away, they can do other things to you too, and they will in the future. And we've seen this is not going to stop.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. At the very outside of all of this, and how afraid everybody was, and, you know, my spidey senses were going off the entire time, like, there's something wrong with this, there's something wrong with this. I had an ex-coworker who I was working with, and she was like, how come they don't shut down all the provincial borders, and how come they don't shut down all this stuff? And I go, well, you can't do that. And she goes, well, why not? Because of your Charter of Rights and Freedoms, I says to them. And they said, well, we don't need that anymore. Everybody's safety is at peril. That needs to stop right now. And I was like, what?
Govern me more.
Govern me harder, Daddy.
Jeez.
Adam's making a reference to the Quebec Medical Officer of Health, but it's been all of these medical officers of health.
Yes.
You know, it's difficult when you're a doctor to kind of go against the official word, right? The official policy. But we've seen it in some jurisdictions where early on, some medical officers of health said things like masks don't really work, only to then be reprimanded and browbeaten in the court of public opinion by politicians and other bureaucrats, and only to then have them fall into line and start to spew the same government rhetoric. So even when sometimes they don't agree, they've fallen into line and changed their tune, and I'm sure it's just to protect their paychecks.
There's so much garbage going on with that. Like I think we'll never see public health behave this way ever again. After this is all done, I think that's going to be about it. I never exactly respected Doug Ford saying, "Well, you know, I'm not a doctor, and so I'm going to bring the chief medical officer on here to talk about this." That to me just shows spineless leadership, where the leader is supposed to intake information from all sources and not just from the medical one, and do a cause and effect analysis. Okay, well, if we do this, what are the other sectors that are going to be impacted and that sort of thing? But we're not seeing that. He just passes the buck, and that's what he's going to do. I think the upcoming election for Doug Ford is not going to be a good one, and I don't even think it'll be good for Ontario either.
Well, today, as Cloutier says, we must not back down. We must remain united and strong for the win. And today, for me, was a day of perspective, and it was a day that I think is going to give us an indication, and is giving us an indication of how committed the protesters are, the truckers, how big the core group is. Obviously, you're not going to have all of these truckers stay there indefinitely, but the core group will, or say they will, and this is an indication of what we're likely to see. And so, yes, I think today we're seeing some resilience, we're seeing some strength, we're seeing resolve. And I think that these truckers are prepared to stay there for the long haul in the face of threats, in the face of potential fines, in the face of potential actions by police. And now we're seeing escalation, which is not surprising to me. I was kind of anticipating this, and that's what we're getting in Alberta. And I will predict that if this drags on any length of time, you're going to see more of this at other border crossings. You're going to see more reinforcements brought up as sympathetic truckers in other areas rise to what they think is the occasion and respond by taking similar actions at other border crossings, which is exactly what the government and authorities do not want to happen. But I think it's inevitable because I think these guys are committed. That's what I think we're seeing here today.
Well, we're going to find out in no time, when all this is over, how much this has changed people's perspectives on their country and where they live. And I'm hoping that's where we have already won, and that's where we are going to expect the big win to happen so far, is the big change in public perspective. Adam Beans, you're actually absolutely right. We should defund public health. They are more harmful than beneficial.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think that it needs to be reformed. I think our government needs an overhaul to prevent this single-mindedness, to prevent coercion of medical officers of health and doctors. I think we need some changes on in the way some of the policies and even legislation is written, so that doctors, medical officers of health, chiefs of police have more autonomy, freedom to make sure that they're not forced, so that they're almost arm's lengths organizations from government where they can't be manipulated or coerced by politicians or bureaucrats, but especially politicians. So that they're not afraid to speak up, so that doctors aren't afraid to practice in the way that they think is in the best interests of their patients, and not be forced to just follow government dictates. I think that's dangerous, and that's what we're seeing right now. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Well, I don't know. Would say that reform would work, but it sounds to me like a champagne socialist would probably wreck it.
Well, but you can't just defund public health. You need public health. It has in the past always served us fairly well, these institutions. And if you have, like, there are health concerns on a macro level, right? There's your individual healthcare concerns, how you deal with your personal healthcare and the choices you make as an individual. And then there are community healthcare concerns, quality of water. You need public health in place for things like, if there's an E. coli breakout in a food supply someplace, health inspections for restaurants, for cleanliness standards, for food processing plants, for if there's an issue with tainted medication coming from a pharmaceutical company, you need to have proper messaging and protocols in place to make sure that all of these systems remain in place to protect the public. But when public health is manipulated and then turned into some sort of authoritarian or institution, it's being used inappropriately. So that's why I think we need reform, but we still need these institutions in place, because we need these systems to maintain our society and our communities and keep people safe. But we've seen this kind of fall apart over the past 2 years.
Yeah, the trust is definitely gone, as far as I'm concerned. But there's too much things that are weird in regards to, like, where do you go from here? I think you have a lot of people who need to say they've stepped too far, and I don't think they're about to do that.
No, they're not. They're not about to. Especially Trudeau.
Yeah, he's not backing down.
But we are seeing it from the provinces. Some of these provinces are beginning to back off. We're seeing it from other governments around the world. Maxime Bernier, over the weekend when he was on our feed, and we did the interview with him, said that in his view, it's a matter of weeks now, and all of this stuff is going to be falling apart. It's all going to be gone. And you can sort of see that tide turning, and this trucker protest might be just the catalyst that pushes things in that direction enough that we get that. But it just remains to be seen. They have to go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, that was just a funny thing that was posted there. Yelp has done more for public health than public health ever has.
Well, for food safety.
For food safety. You're right, though, that there is things that it is needed for, but as far as them going ahead and saying everybody needs to mask up and all this stuff, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like,
yeah, it's a distortion and an aberration of what that what public health is supposed to be. Your medical officer of health, your health units locally, and each province these are provincial things that then trickle down to municipalities. But these organizations have served us well throughout history, and you have to understand what public health is. It is something that is needed. You need these organizations to oversee regulations, standards.
Hey, I got a bit of a Tuesday evening update here from someone in the Convoy. It was posted in one of the groups here. If you like, I will share that. It's kind of doing an update on what's happening with the organization of all the guys and the people there. It's only about a minute long. Generally, in the truckers and all that.
Public health's reputation is dying because of politicians.
Well, I mean, you're right about the history of public health, because if you go back to places like New York over 100 years ago, you had butchers serving unclean meat that is sitting out in the sun all day. They sell it to somebody and the person dies of salmonella or whatever it is. So there is a long history of that.
Well, it goes beyond that, though. It's like if there's a train derailment and there's a chemical car, you need your medical officer of health there who understands what the health ramifications from that might be on the population, and to keep people in a surrounding neighborhood safe, say, right? Or a fire where there are chemicals involved, public emergencies of all kinds.
Chris just put a video through, as it seems like your audio is the only one that's working anymore.
Okay.
So a bit of a background before you throw her up. I guess it's something this gentleman's explaining how there's an agreement where horns will be ending at 7 p.m. every night. That's all I really heard before I transferred it over there. But it's just a short clip doing a quick little walk around and update. So a little bit of a visual while we're waiting for Carla. Any word from her? Still, we got about 10 minutes left. So
yeah, any minute now. She joined us about the same time last night.
Seeing this video clip up. So what is this a clip of, Chris? What are we looking at here?
It looks like one of the supporters at location, and he, from what I heard in the clip, he is talking about how there's been an agreement of some sort, again, about the horns being stopped, tooting them at 7 o'clock every night, and he started explaining it before I looked over.
Sorry. Had lots of meetings today. Things are getting organized, which is amazing. Help is coming.
Turn it up there, Rick.
Yep.
The guys on the street here are still having fun. A request has been made, so I'm hoping everybody can pass this on, that horns are to be stopped at 7 p.m. every night. It's 6:15 right now. Very loud. They want the horns stopped at 7. This is being used as a bargaining tool. So a little bit of give and take. We're going to try to help where we can and go from there. Yeah, things are pretty busy. It's 6 o'clock at night. They're very loud, but hopefully it quiets down for 7, and we'll go from there. You can pass that on for the noise to be stopped at 7. That'd be awesome.
Now, I don't know 100% if that is an agreement that was actually made between organizers and so on and so forth. But I'm going to be honest, I do think that is a bit of a good idea to help keep the residents that aren't so supportive less angry, so, because that could work against them in the long run. But I think if this escalates the way that we've been seeing, I think that's going to be the least of the problems, to be for real. But it is a nice gesture for at least the residents.
I don't think that it's something we can really intelligently comment on because we don't know what's been going on in those negotiations.
Exactly.
And he says it's being used as a bargaining chip. So we need to, whether it's a smart move for on their part or not, it who knows, because who knows what was being offered on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But the horns are a tool that they've been using. And if they give that up to even this degree, then that's less pressure they're applying. Yeah. So they need to get something for that.
We definitely know Trudeau isn't negotiating anything. Like, he's run off, he's hiding, he's not coming back.
No, and we don't know who they're negotiating with. I would assume this is with Ottawa police and probably municipal officials. So
I don't even
Who
know who this
knows?
person is.
Who knows?
He's just a random post on there.
yeah, well, he's obviously involved with the group, the core group of truckers. I'll see if I can find a name.
Should be a name tag right to it. Yeah, it's just attached to the channel there.
Yeah, I think his name is Tim Yonker, and he appears to be with the main group of truckers. We saw them hold their first news conference over the weekend, and I don't really remember seeing him there,
Mm.
but I think he might be with them.
Well, they did say they had many captains in
Yes.
regards to helping organize. They
And so he is asking for this video message to be distributed. He's trying to get that message out to the other truckers to stop honking their horns at 7 p.m.
We did see a message from Justin Trudeau today at 2 hours ago. It says, today in the House, members of Parliament unanimously condemned anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-black racism, homophobia, and transphobia that we've seen on display in Ottawa over the past number of days. Together, let's keep working and make Canada more inclusive.
I think we all have. Anytime we've seen any of it, if there was a smidgen of it, it was condemned and rectified. It's very like the quadrupling down. Like this is that they're literally now pushing absolute fiction to this point because there was a problem and then it was dealt with. That's dealt with. It's gone. And then they're just like, no. And it's like, but the bet's over, dude. Like the cards have been dealt. Like.
And everybody we've talked to who's been there, which has been
It's
how
a
many
red
people-
herring, and you know what?
It is.
The whole thing is a red herring.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
This is not the issue that is at the
No.
heart of this, but like everything, the Liberals and the NDP are making this about race,
Mm-hmm.
racism.
Well, claiming
Making
everyone
it
else
about
is racist.
And all these truckers are a bunch of white supremacists, blah, 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 blah. That's not the issue that is at the heart of this. The issue is the vaccine mandates. The issue is freedom. The issue is the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This is what it's about. They're never going to get resolution, and I don't think they want resolution in a constructive way. They
No.
just want to push this racism narrative to smear the protest. And by having this passed in the House today, it's that stupid game that they play where then the Conservatives go, well, yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that. Who wants to be a racist? I don't know. I don't want to be accused of being a racist.
Wait,
So
but
of course they condemn racism.
But it's a scenario where they're going, okay, everyone, we all need to acknowledge that we condemn racism, Islamophobia, all these things that are not Canadian values.
They're
And
shifting
then-
the freaking focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then they say, like, because of course every Canadian is going to agree with that. But then they shift it and they say that we've seen on display. And so then it kind of puts them in this corner where it's a trick, because if they say no, well, then that means they've completely ignored the very small thing that they've seen. But if they say yes, then it's a double standard in itself. So like they get put in that corner and they say, okay, well, if you say yes or no, you're kind of screwed. Either you're screwed with us and you look like even worse, or you're screwed with them and it completely contradicts what you just did. But they're still technically right.
That's a great point there, Adam. So I've even done a podcast on my channel, The Flow of Discourse, with an individual on the ground in Israel over the past, he's been there since the start of the pandemic. He used to just live there during the wintertime. And in researching a lot of things about Israel and that sort of stuff, the media has given the anti-Israel crowd total free range on being as anti-Semitic as they want to be. It's absolutely disgusting.
Have you, Brandon, could you possibly message Carla and find out what her status is?
Yeah, she said 5 minutes, 2 minutes ago. She's just charging her phone up a little bit.
Chris, you're losing it, apparently. You're losing it, Chris.
Chris losing
I've
it.
already lost it, man. I've had to give up a lot. Well, not a lot, but stuff that means a lot to me in this last this whole pandemic thing. So,
And that's a very good point, Sandra. Trudeau, Mr. Blackface himself, right? Oh, yeah, we have to condemn racism. This is a guy who wore blackface so many times, he can't even remember how many times he did it.
And he has been less than kind in his treatment to visual minorities in the Liberal Party that he has had elected. Jody Wilson-Raybould amongst one of them, who he has just absolutely treated like garbage for so long. And she ended up having to leave the Liberal Party of Canada because of her treatment. Like, the double speak here on Mr. Trudeau is absolutely insane. Like, I don't know what to do about it anymore. Like, he's just a total jerk. We are being joined by Carla in a few moments here.
The whole thing is just politics in so many ways has just become such a goddamn joke.
mm-hmm.
I mean, has it always been a joke? I mean, you've been a political correspondent. You've been to Washington. You've been to Ottawa. You've been to provincial politics. Like, was it always as bad, or is that just a new thing?
No, it's never been like this. It's never been this bad. It's always been politics,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a different ball game now.
It's a little slimier than it used to be.
It's not even about the slime. It's the complete, just the ongoing deception, doublespeak. It's very, today it's more Orwellian.
Yes.
I think that's the way to phrase it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to say so.
And Canadians are suffering because of it, and it's hard to get anything productive out of this because it's just it's all such crap. You see this, the hatred, the division that spews from Justin Trudeau and from Jagmeet Singh. You see the waffling and the campaigning by polls from Aaron O'Toole, all these mainstream parties, the main three parties. You see the corruption. You see how they don't really have the best interests of the people at heart. They really don't.
No, they really don't. The Canadian politics landscape has always been weird. And
Yeah, the news is corrupt. They're on the government payroll. And that's really one of the main problems we have today. The legacy media is corrupt. They're controlled. And we are living today in a country that is very, very communistic.
Oh, but don't worry. You'll have nothing. And you'll be happy.
And people, we also use the phrase fascism. And we have really seen a convergence of the fascists and the communists. They're working in league to tear things down. And on the other side, we have all these people who are trying to preserve what is left of our freedom. And the freedom movement, one of the reasons we have difficulty today in generating public support on the freedom side, I think, why those freedom fighters have trouble, is because it's not an ism. It's not a socialism. It's not a fascism. It isn't something that has been defined in quite those terms. And that's why you see people from every political stripe becoming involved with the freedom movement, because it doesn't fit into that category. But people always find it easier to understand a story or an argument when it's left versus right, black versus white, good versus evil, fascism versus communism. And then they compartmentalize these things. And even when it comes to fascism versus communism, in the minds of people, communism is on the left, and that's all philanthropic, and it's about socialism and trying to do nice things for people. And fascism is on the right, and it's authoritarian. The reality is they're two peas in a pod. They come around and loop together, and they're both ideologies that in the end rely on coercion, force, violence, and in order to extract wealth from people and redistribute it, and also to concentrate power at the top. It doesn't give power to the people. It gives both of those isms, fascism, communism, give the power to a few elite, a small group of elites at the top. But the freedom movement, that's about the people. That's about freeing people and making sure we're not enslaved or oppressed.
That's true. It's kind of funny how through the landscape of history, fascism was more or less a problem in 1940s Italy. But you look at socialism and communism, it has had like such a much far-reaching example than fascism ever did. But we've been told this narrative for so long now that, oh, you got to watch the fascists are coming for you. It's like, I don't see the grounds for that. That was manufactured out of nothing. It's a total straw man, if I ever seen one.
Now, sorry to cut you off, Adam Beans. I disagree. Fascism is not just a left-wing ideology. It's any ideology pushed to their extremes to the point when you start censoring the opposition because it doesn't agree with your narrative. That's fascism.
Well, I would agree to him in this way, though, Chris. Like Nazis in Germany,
We're left.
Hitler, they were fascists. The fascists were socialists. It was the National Socialist Party.
Yeah, they were left.
It's a different kind of socialism. Communists are more like global socialists. Fascists are national socialists. And the Nazis in Germany allowed some degree of private ownership, but it was all under government control and regulation. And Hitler used that to really fuel and expand the economy at a rapid pace. And that's kind of what we have even in place in Canada and the United States now. It's a corporatism, and it's a fascistic economic model. And they've given huge power through this economic system to corporations. And that's why we're seeing now this huge pressure on small businesses. And that's why our system has become very fascistic in nature, our economic system.
Well, it's funny.
Well, before we get too much into it, we do have Carla
Carla is here.
Hey
made
guys,
it.
how you doing?
Oh, just arguing about fascism.
Just a little light evening
That's the topic of the
conversation.
year.
Just before you start, I just want to point out it's kind of weird because we were just talking about how that's left, but apparently on Wikipedia it's far right.
That's right, because that's the political graph or spectrum, the chart that people always refer to. And that's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
People always kind of find it easier to understand a story or an argument if it's left versus right versus wrong.
Visual.
Two sides of a story, when in reality, even a story has shades of gray. There's all these different things. And that's the thing about the freedom movement. It's not about right versus, it's about individuals. There are a million shades, 100 gabillion shades of gray, different stories, because everybody's an individual, and that's what freedom is all about. At least I think so.
Fair enough. So Carla, how was your day? How'd everything go? How do your legs feel?
Wow, I mean, every day, right? I'm walking more than I ever have. I mean, I have every excuse in the book when I'm home not to walk. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, I'm too tired. Well, I've been walking like 20,000 to 25,000 steps a day. So, yeah, my legs and hips are kind of like done. I'm not young.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
It's been a great day, guys. Actually, my husband had to go back home to Sarnia today. So in lieu of my husband, now I have 3 of my good friends with us. So I've switched hotel rooms. There's some ladies in the background. They're being so gracious and letting me do this podcast, you know, so there might be some giggling, there might be some moving, but I mean, these are my friends and they're so happy to be here too.
Absolutely.
Woo! Yeah, so today was a good day. I mean, again, it's Tuesday after, you know, so what are we at? Day 5, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Some people are calling it day 6 from Thursday, but
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm gonna call it from Friday on. I think I don't. That's just my.
Like the truckers came in on Thursday because we came Thursday night with the convoy. And I mean, there was like a handful of people down at Parliament Hill. It was great Thursday night because they still had the eternal flame burning. They turned that off on Friday. So now we're day 5 with no eternal flame. I mean, how long has that flame been burning? Like since the 1800s? Is that kind of the deal? How, like, has it been burning since it started or?
Yeah, I think eternal meant eternally burn.
Eternal is eternal. And so, I mean, that in itself, you know, with this weekend, that's historical that the eternal flame's been gone. But anyway, yeah, today, I mean, it's a Tuesday. So, you know, Monday, there was still a pretty good crowd. You know, people, I think, can stretch the weekend out, you know, make a long weekend for work. Today, I have lots of video footage. There was still a pretty excited crowd. It's still that same vibe, you know, like just joy, unity, happiness, just lots of love. Like people, complete strangers saying, I love you. I mean, I just can't get enough of it. I don't know if I ever want to go home. I mean, I don't really love living in a hotel. I miss my dog, my kids, my bed. But I mean, this is almost like an addiction just to be in this kind of environment where, you know, people are just so warm.
Well, you've had a long journey in regards to what all of this has. Well, some people would call it the pandemic we put you through it, but I'm changing the wordage on that now. It's what the government has put us all through at this point. So you have a lot to gain by being there, I think, and it's very symbolic.
Well, it's just about feeling Canadian again, right? Because I think with what the government has done to us, everyone has lost all essence of patriotism. You know, people were kind of ashamed. I heard more times people have been ashamed to be Canadians, and now people just have that Canadian pride back, you know? I mean, and I don't think it's the cold weather. I think it's just that whole environment of being there and just knowing that, you know, I think people felt so alone. Anyone who stood against these mandates, we all felt alone until we came together in Ottawa. So, and seeing people come from everywhere. I've spoken to people from Manitoba. I've spoken to people from New Brunswick, Nova Scotia today. Like these people came a long way. That's commitment. So,
hours away. Yeah, that's like a day's travel away, Manitoba, I would say, to Ottawa.
Right.
About a day's travel.
So what I did notice today is the side streets are filling up. So I did find that some of the side streets, like I've been walking down, my hotel's on Slater Street, and I walk to Bank, and then I'll walk up to Wellington Street. And when I'm walking up, you know, it's been like from Bank up towards Wellington. Today, when I was going up to the hill, I noticed that they're heading down left, and they're filling up. You know, there's 2 lanes, still leaving that 1 lane out of respect. It's been really, really good. And so anyway, yeah, it's been great. So we're starting to fill in slowly but surely. I realize people are waiting for that entire you know, that like I think everybody wanted that presence of trucks just rolling in and just filling and saturating the city, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, this is about being respectful, and so we were like, you know, so we just had to do it. I mean, they were respectful and they just did it the way that they did. I think they're being on guard because they don't want the media to have anything to say. I mean, look at the way that they've, you know, slammed this whole convoy with just like tiny little things.
The tiniest things, especially compared to the most, like the protests from the last few years. It's just like, what? Apples and oranges, man. Apples and oranges. I do have a quick question. Has there been we're kind of looking for a confirmation. We heard something about some of the truckers talking about turning the sound of their horns off at 7 p.m. every night from this point forward. Is that something that is going on, or is that just hearsay?
Well, actually, tonight was the first night that I've actually been out past 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Usually I'm so dead, right? But when my girlfriends got here, they arrived around 5 o'clock. We came back, got them settled, and then we went downtown. We went up to the hill, and I believe we were out until 8 o'clock, and the horns were still rolling.
Okay.
I'm not hearing them now from my hotel. I believe they're shutting them off around 9 o'clock, the same as they have been all along.
Oh, okay. See, that's something that was news that we didn't hear about, and a lot of people are going, I can't, what about the residents and all that? But if they're turning them off at 9, the sound curfew, well, if that exists anymore, it used to be 11 o'clock, where now I think you can complain about noise anytime.
Yeah, and again,
under regular circumstances.
It goes back to the respect, right? Like, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I just know that that's the way that it was tonight. I did speak to a police officer, so. I've been really kind of talking to the different police officers as I come across them and, trying to interview them, but obviously they're not going to let me, on my Facebook Live. But this one officer I spoke to from Peel Police, so it's just outside of Toronto, he fully supports what we're doing here. He said, you know what, everyone has the right to protest. I am not against this. I got a real sense that he was for it, but obviously he can't in his position completely disclose that. But what he said that the overall discussion among the police officers from all the different cities are that the people are generally, very, very respectful. They haven't really noticed a lot of bad apples. But the reason for the the extra police presence is because they really fully believe that there are plants that are coming into the city, and their concern is that these plants are going to be aggressors. I can do it like I can compare them to Antifa, right? Antifa, I'm sorry. They won't use that word, but there's going to be some plants in there, and so far they haven't seen anything. But their fear is that they're going to come, and so and they just don't want the crowd to react in a negative way. Yeah. Today I did see something. So every day around between noon and 2 o'clock, there's speeches. And there was a gentleman that got up on the stage, and I'm not exactly sure why he went on the stage, but he did get up onto the stage, and he wasn't drunk or anything or disorderly, but he was on the stage. And what I saw was he didn't want to come down, and the security, like the convoy security, they just look like regular people, were standing around the stage trying to ask him to come down. And you could see that they were exchanging words, and he was just kind of standing stiff and didn't want to come down off the stage. And they did a little bit of convincing. They got him step by step off the stage. And then I began to film, and off to the side, he was standing there talking one-on-one with a guy. And you could see that he was quite angry. And just watching that guy from the convoy diffuse him, what I managed to capture is they were talking, and then they embraced in a hug. And I thought, wow, you know what? That's really what this is about, right? The antidote to aggression is just a hug and love it out. I just can't say enough things about the level of peace and just love for your fellow human being that is going on here. Because, in the past, let's face it, you would see, like, thinking about going to bars when there's someone aggressive, security is generally, like puffed out chest, and they're going to throw them out. There just wasn't that energy there. It was, you could see that this guy just really wanted to like calm him, soothe him, let him know that he's loved, showing him that, and he hugged him, and then they hugged it out, and then it was fine. So if we could keep that vibe going, we could probably beat Antifa. I'm sure this guy wasn't.
Love and peace. Love and peace.
Do you think that
I feel like an old hippie, right? But it's really what it feels like. Like, I've often compared this to Woodstock 2022, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot cleaner though, and a lot less pot.
Yeah. What do you think the difference between yesterday and today has been? It looks a little bit busier down there from what the footage we've seen, but I can't really comment on that without being there.
Yeah. So, there was a point yesterday where it was pretty kind of, there weren't a lot of people. You could sense that the people are leaving. We hadn't quite had more people coming in, but today the crowd was building, especially around, mid-afternoon. It was the same thing going on, like the dance party off into the one corner. What I did notice is that up along Parliament Hill, we're seeing less people gathering there, and everyone seems to be gathering near the stage. And then if you look onto Wellington Street, just to the side of the stage, there's the transports just at three. They're parked like three side by side and then back, and they're blowing their horns, right? They're putting on like almost an orchestra, and the people are standing there just almost in solidarity. They're standing still and just, like giving one of these to the transport drivers. Like, it's just amazing. It's almost like people are embracing the horns, and they'll blow their horns steadily for like, I don't know, up to 10, 15 minutes. I don't even know how they still have horns. Yeah. And then there's a dance party off to the left and a dance party off to the right. People dancing with their signs. It's just that same energy just keeps growing and growing, and it's going on and on every single day.
That's amazing to hear about. We have started getting some reports and some visuals on people taking wheelbarrows of jerry cans to get these trucks filled up. Have you seen anything like that? Or is there anything like any updates on like what's going on with that?
I've actually looked for that because I had heard that too. So I really did look for that today. Today was a little bit of a challenge for me because my husband left. I had to move my room. My friends came. So I missed a few things today, but that is my goal tomorrow, to see them actually filling up the tankers. I do know that I've seen some trucks kind of pull off and then go somewhere, and then I see them come back because I'm recognizing the signs that are on those trucks.
Yeah.
So it's been, yeah. I mean, obviously they have to have gas somehow, so they have to be doing it that way. There's got to be a way that they're doing it.
Yeah.
A little bit of action behind me. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's fine.
But you get
no, you're good.
4 girls in a room.
I appreciate you coming on. Like, that's just a number one thing, and it's really cool that you've been there for all this time. So you have the real scoop of the day-to-day of things. Like, I'm sure that things are changing every day in one way or another, whether it be minute or what have you. And so definitely thank you for continuing to entertain us by coming on and bringing everybody what is happening on the streets.
You want to respond to K-Pax, who wants you to go home?
I'm not going home. Not going home. Nobody's going home.
No.
And that still remains to be the main stance is we're not leaving. Like, I don't care how many rumors are on the internet. Speaking to the truckers, speaking to the general, to the people that are there, the people who have their cars that are blocked in between the truckers, they just say, I am not going home. Like, they're here to stay. There is so much food at that, downtown and on that whole Convoy line and everywhere. Every 4 or 5 trucks you walk, they're cooking food and handing out food to just everyone. So, that whole story about the people who were at the Convoy that were stealing food from the food bank. I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but I can't see where they would need to, because they're just like offering you food. I had people putting food in my pockets. I'm like, guys, I have food. I'm okay. And they're like, oh, just take some, So I don't know.
Maybe I'd gain the few pounds that I need, if I were to go.
Definitely I'm eating carbs.
Jeez.
I'm putting on weight every ounce, every bit that I'm walking isn't probably doing me any good because they're handing me chocolate, and what woman doesn't like chocolate, right?
I'm walking here.
Andrew wants to know, Carla, what problems are you guys running into? Are you running into any problems?
I want to say that we are, because it's what I really expected. But no, no problems. I mean, even just, moving my hotel dates, switching hotels. Like, I thought that I would get some resistance there. The only problem was this weekend, my husband's coming back. I had to make sure I booked ahead because I knew they only had a few rooms left, which is incredible because they didn't sell out last weekend. The hotels, I've been getting messages from friends, from all over the place who are trying to come this weekend, and they're finding that the rooms are sold out. So I think that I'm predicting that this weekend's going to be even bigger than last weekend.
I also seen a post in one of the Convoy groups talking about a convoy for February 5th in Toronto. Yeah. So it's starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I think it'd be great to go to legislature, right? Like, does anyone know what actually? I haven't had a chance to look at my phone, look at any news. Like, what happened today with the Conservatives, with the Conservative Party? Was there any more discussion about?
A third of the caucus, a third of the caucus has decided to vote in favor of a new leadership.
Good.
So that was fast.
There's no word on it really. Aaron O'Toole went on his Twitter feed and was crying like a baby about it, saying, "Oh, if you guys remove me, you won't be cool anymore." And
He hasn't been cool the entire time he's been in. He could have stood up and spoke out. Sorry, flip flop. Time to take your flip flops to the beach and get out.
Yeah, I've been saying tonight that people should mail him a pair of flip flops for a going away present. Send him some flip flops.
That would be amazing.
Elite 333 wants to know, how are the trucks not out of fuel?
I can answer that.
Yeah, we have seen people bringing in jerry cans and things like that. What have you seen down there, Carla?
Yeah, like I said, I've been looking for them to come in with jerry cans. I know that they're not out of fuel. Their trucks are running. They've got their windows up. They're being well heated. People are still, there's even propane. People are not running out of propane. Those that are cooking with propane, we've got charcoal barbecues. They're not running out of gas. I'm going to look specifically tomorrow, like I said, for those to see them refueling, because I would like to see that, and I'll try and catch it on tape too.
It seems like a lot of that might be happening under the cloak of darkness. And
perhaps
it looks
it's happening overnight. I could be missing it because it's at night. Good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen some video and some still images of that stuff happening at night. Hey, are they bringing in more trucks to the downtown area? I did see some video of them moving some trucks strategically into place overnight. Saw video of that. Again, sort of doing an end run around some police someplace in the city and getting them down there. But are they moving any trucks out? How many trucks are still there?
Well, I mean, I haven't, I actually haven't thought about counting them. I do know that every day that I wake up, I'm starting to see more and more in the side streets. Okay. So they're starting to kind of gridlock those side streets. I use the word gridlock loosely because, like I said, they're always keeping that one lane open for emergency vehicles. Mm-hmm. And I am seeing like the trucks moving down Rideau Street, past the mall, and going down into the side streets there as well. So
it goes on quite a distance. Yeah.
It is growing. And I do believe they're moving them in at night. Because every morning when I wake up and I take a walk, that's when I'm like, wow, there's another street that's full. Wow, there's more trucks here. So.
Mm-hmm.
Bud Van Dens or whatever, no, there has not been any sightings of any Antifa or wannabes other than the few things that aren't worth talking about anymore. But she has received word from police that they are looking for agitators. So
yeah, they absolutely are. That's why the police presence, like he said that, and one thing that I found interesting when I did talk to this Peel police officer, he said that he actually used the words, he wished that the media was more transparent about what was happening, because he said it's very frustrating to be there and to see what's going on there and seeing it painted in a completely different light. He said, our presence is here. He said they're making it look like the general protesters are aggressive, and that's why the increased police presence. But he said truly the increased police presence is because we are watching for agitators and we're anticipating that it's going to happen, and we want to be prepared.
Right.
So day 6, all is well. Things are going well. There's no agitations happening. Nothing major. I did see a brief city TV news about somebody who got beat up in a park or something, but I don't know enough about it to comment on yet. So I would still be suspicious about it as City TV is pushing it. So we'll have to see there.
No one's talking about it, so I don't know.
How much longer do you predict the Great Canadian Standoff to keep going?
Man, you said it correctly, like the Great Canadian Standoff. I actually expected that Justin Trudeau would make a statement again today, and I was hoping that he would make a statement that was more relevant to what is actually happening rather than, continuing to advertise the need to be vaccinated.
Yeah, really.
And continuing to, just promote his narrative. But nothing from Justin Trudeau today. I honestly don't know. Every day I think that he's going to say something, that something's got to give. I mean, as you guys know, it's, if you're following any social media, it's going on worldwide. Like, this thing is spreading like rapid fire. So I don't know.
We have video here showing that there are still trucks heading to Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they're They're not stopping. And these are fresh trucks, right? These
Yes.
guys aren't tired. They're still excited. They haven't even gotten there yet.
That's crazy.
Like, look at that.
I wish a lot of the people who aren't in support would just kind of look at this and just kind of take a minute to go, you know what? Wait a minute. There's a lot of people who are really supporting. There must be something. There must be something to this. It can't all be what they've been saying on the news for the last only 3 or 4 days. It just makes you think that they're going to give their heads a shake a little, but we'll see.
I was fortunate. I got to talk to 2 different people from Ottawa today, like actual locals. And both of their stance, one was vaccinated, the other one was unvaccinated. Both of them believe that, this is not a vaccinated versus unvaccinated versus vaccinated. They just want to have the mandates done. The vaccinated person was like, look, I did my part. I did what he told me to do. And here we are. I still got COVID. I'm sick. I was sick. My family got sick. Funny enough, everyone in my family who was vaccinated got COVID. Those that weren't didn't get COVID. She says that her words were, I'm not saying that, I'm not really saying anything other than that. She goes, but we just want our freedom back. We got these vaccinations to get back to normal, and it's not back to normal. So they're out supporting this. Another guy, he's unvaccinated, but he's from Ottawa, and he is in full support of this. He didn't lose a job. He has nothing to lose. He was never anyone that went to restaurants or any of the, the different social venues that were taken away. But he said, it's just wrong. It's just wrong seeing people lose jobs. So the people of Ottawa support this too. And it's both sides of this coin, so to speak. I almost hate that in so many ways it's vaccinated versus unvaccinated. But the whole concept of this convoy isn't about that. It's just end the mandates, just get back to normal. Let's continue on. Let's learn to live with this virus. So
that's Justin Trudeau using the 90% of people who are vaccinated as his excuse for saying that people are on his side is a total farce and is totally wrong. That is just simply not the case.
Keep here until we get our freedom back.
Sorry that's so loud, guys.
Yeah, it is very loud.
I'm sorry, I'm bringing this down. This is footage from Randy Hillier.
looks like a video I would have shot sideways.
Yeah. So just slant your head sideways, but they are getting fuel here, I guess, and getting it to the truckers. This is what they're doing here. So that answers some of the questions. And
notice it is at nighttime. See, that's why I've been missing it, because I have been looking for that.
We're holding strong in Ottawa.
Well, it's kind of hard when you're keeping eyes out on all day and you're walking all day. Then I mean, that's a good reason to go to bed at night, I would say.
You betcha.
Yeah.
I look forward to that shower and warm up. Get back into my room.
Well, it's sideways,
like
but that just makes it more artistic.
I want to talk to people, right? I want to hear from people. I want to know everyone's why. I need to get that out there.
That's exactly it. And I can't thank you enough for coming on our show here for the past couple of nights and talking about these things.
There was a comment here about an RCMP officer at the Alberta-Manitoba border being assaulted, as reported by the Toronto Star, which is a liberal rag. So have people been talking about that aspect of this? Because we have seen escalation. We've seen now this border blockade form in Alberta at the Alberta-Montana border. Are people talking about that, or are the people in Ottawa even aware?
Nobody's even talking about anything like that. And believe me, I'm asking them if they know anything, and people just aren't talking about it. The thing is, people are saying that they're enjoying their conversations with the police. I see people walking by thanking the police. So I don't really know where that's happening now. I mean, if the RCMP are blocking the truckers to come in, I could see where that would cause a few words, right? Some negativity. But personally, I haven't seen that or heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw in that area farmers and with big tractors and transport trucks doing an end run around an RCMP roadblock. They were trying to prevent more trucks from getting to the border to join forces there at the border blockade. And tow truck operators are refusing to go in to tow the rigs. And the RCMP has been trying to take action down there to put an end to this blockade at the Alberta-Montana border. So we've seen it now spread to at least one border crossing. And the truckers did indicate over the weekend that if their demands weren't met, if Justin Trudeau wouldn't meet with them and action was taken in Ottawa, that we might expect to see action taken at border points. So
Actions
as much as,
such as
blockades, truckers moving down there to block access to the border points to apply a new form of pressure. So as much as there's been an atmosphere of positivity and it's more like a rally, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody there has to be wondering if this can be maintained.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, I feel like the truckers know that they have the support of the people. Like, people are continuing to donate food. People are continuing to donate to the GoFundMe. I mean, the entire country, well, I mean, not the entire country, but, you know, so many around the country just want to see the success of this. So they're going to continue to work hard to get everything out to the people that they need. I do sometimes wonder how much stamina do the truckers have? I mean, they're sitting in their trucks all day long, sleeping in their trucks. There is, you know, like they announced today at the speeches, you know, for people to maybe open up their homes just so these truckers could actually have a good solid 12 hours to sleep. So I just wonder, how long is this sustainable for some of them, right?
Yeah, it's
like
cold,
they need to almost
all
take
this
sleep
stuff.
breaks, shift breaks, you know, in sleeping like horozontally.
I did see that the GoFundMe was at about almost $10 million today. So I think Trudeau's comments yesterday have really, really fueled what has happened with the GoFundMe.
Oh, for sure. Like even my one friend, I mean, you know, when she found out that my husband was going home, she'd listened to Trudeau's comments and she's like, I'm going back. Because she was here on the weekend and she's like, I'm going back. He just made her mad. So she wanted to come back and just at least be another body, hang out with me. So it's been, I think people are really, the more negativity that Justin Trudeau spews, I think the more fire that puts under people to continue to stand up and you know, gather.
Today was, in my view, sort of a test of the resilience, of the resolve. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's there. It looks like they have that they are entrenched and they are committed. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. People are, they are committed. They're in here for the long haul. And that's exactly the words that they'll say. They'll say, I'm just not backing down. I mean, these truckers, truckers are resilient people. They drive on the road for hours and hours. They hold their bladder forever and a day. You know what I mean? They go weeks without seeing their family members. They travel across Canada, across the United States. I mean, I think they'd be pretty hard pressed to, like, you know, throw them down in just a week. I mean, this could go on.
This,
it really could.
Do you get the sense this is history in the making?
I think that the very first day was history. I think it was history that day. I mean, when was the last time you saw that many truckers and that many Canadians stand on overpasses? That was historical. Friday was history. And I think everything moving forward is history, right?
I feel like for the past several years, the media and the government have been trying to tear down Canada and the truckers in one single week brought Canada back. And that's
like, guys, I wish each and every one of you could be here and see exactly that statement, Brenden, that you said. You know, they brought Canada back. I can't describe that feeling of the Canada pride, and it's not just me. It's everywhere. People just have it, and I don't think I'm 52. I don't think I've ever seen it in my lifetime like I have in the last few days. So, you know, on one of the videos that I did today, I was saying, you know what? Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Thank you, because you tried to divide this country, but what you did is you unified a great portion of the country. So thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I
It
guess he
just
did
it
unify the
backfired on
country in an evil, sinister way. He's kind of brought the country together because, I mean, for the most part, we are a positive people. Like, I would say overall, pretty
Polite
positive people.
right? Yeah.
Well, I think we're done being polite. I think we need to stop with that. But
Well, we're
it's
not polite with Justin Trudeau, but with one another.
yeah,
right?
no. A lot of people have taken advantage of our good natures as people. Like, there's been so many little arguments that we've had with people, and we don't push it because, oh, well, I don't want to get into a confrontation with them, or I don't want to do this or that. But we've done that for so long now, and look what it's done to us. It caused a boiling point.
Well, I think the biggest thing here is Justin Trudeau. He looked at Canadian citizens and he mistook our kindness for weakness, right? And we are not a weak. We've proven that we're not weak human beings. We're kind, but we're not weak. And enough is enough. I mean, and I mean, his thing about the derogatory statements, well, it's the F Trudeau signs, right? I mean, how long did he think that we were going to sit silent and not actually say, F you, Justin Trudeau? I mean, come on, 2 years is a long time. I think that was a tolerant society.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been at it for 3.5 hours here now.
Well, guys, good on you, because I couldn't do this for 3.5 hours.
Well, it's I'm really glad that you've come on. Would you be willing to come back on again tomorrow and give another daily update with the Flow of Discourse and Maverick News podcast?
For sure, it'd be my pleasure. I'm also going to find out a little bit more about that fueling, just to answer that question. Anything else you guys want me to look for tomorrow?
Oh, that's a good question, Rick.
We just need a sense, I think, for the viewers of what is happening there, just the scope of it, the number of trucks, the the mood, the sense, right? Because you are the eyes and the ears of the public down there. You really are. And for all the people who can't be right there, you're their portal. You're the window through which they can look to get a real perspective on this, an unfiltered, unedited, and to some degree unbiased view of this, not something that's being spun by the media.
Yeah, like I've been looking for these aggressors. I've been looking for that. That's how I happened to catch that guy on the stage. It was just, I was waiting just to be able to capture the We Are All Essential guy, Vlad. He was going to do a speech, and I just wanted to capture him, and that's when I saw what was going on the stage. So, but at the same time, I am looking for the aggression. I'm looking for those things because I do want to be biased, right? Like if it's really out there, I don't want to paint a picture that's not real either. But I just can't find it. Like I've never seen these flags they're talking about. What I saw, I did meet some ladies today. They were walking around with garbage bags, and so I did stop and interview them, and they said, yeah, like we're the ones who are replacing the garbage bags. They're with the convoy. They're just a couple of ladies from Nova Scotia. They came out, they just jumped in when they got here and just said, hey, what can we do? And that's what they're doing. Like we're not dirtying the city. We're not defacing the city. So
yeah, the most polite protesters in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Like my husband said it's the most polite revolution he's ever seen in his life.
That's exactly right. It is a war,
Hey, Chris.
but it's a very polite war.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. So guys, I'm going to look for those things for you tomorrow. I'm going to try and find out the number of the trucks. I'll try and talk to someone, some of the truckers, see if they can give me like an actual number, because for me to walk around the whole thing and count, I couldn't be accurate. I don't even want to begin to guess because I don't want to be wrong, right?
Oh, just a guesstimate anyway, because the news media is going to guess under anything that we do. So, I mean, I wouldn't rely on any numbers that they're going to spew about. So, just guesstimate what you can.
Okay.
Just keep doing what you're doing because you're providing an awesome service for the public.
Well, it's been my absolute pleasure, right? Like I consider myself really blessed to be able to be here and to be able to just go out there every day and just talk to people and videotape what's happening, dance a little with the people. It's It's been great. I'm the luckiest person out of all four of us, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I do.
give some of those people down there some hugs for us.
For sure. Free hugs. We see so many of them. I will. I absolutely will. I don't think I've ever hugged so many strangers in my whole life.
Yeah,
can't
I
remember
wish
the
I
last
could
time
be
I
there
got
to
a
play
hug.
some street hockey with those guys.
Right. And they were supposed to be doing street hockey today. Up near Parliament Hill, and I looked for it. I was there until 2:00, and then I did have to come back to move my hotel room, and I didn't see it. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow. Oh, one thing, Chris Guy is coming tomorrow. They've been saying that he's on his way. I kind of half expected him today. Probably he's coming tomorrow. That makes me a little bit nervous in some ways, although I appreciate Chris Guy and everything that he's doing. He does kind of come with him a very aggressive attitude. You know, he's very, very forward. And I just hope that Chris Guy understands what's going on, the vibe that's there, so that he doesn't realize that we don't need to push. They're being, Ottawa is treating us well.
Yeah. Me and Rick Walker have our own opinions that I don't think we should delve too hard into. Go out and smear the guy, but
we don't want to trigger him again.
No.
Right.
No.
Like, I think what he's doing is good. It's just maybe
how he does it
that I would do it.
Yeah, it's not how I would either. Actually, I've kind of been wondering in the back of my head what the hell he's been doing about all of this, but I kind of just would hope he would just stay away, but it is what it is. Let's see what happens because
Let's see what happens.
Maybe see what happens.
Change. He is a big personality, and
big personality.
That I won't lie. That's brought a little bit of apprehension to me. So we'll see what happens with that. So maybe tomorrow's the day that Chris Guy makes his appearance. So I'll let you guys know about that.
Perfect.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks, guys.
You're
all the best.
Thank you.
Stay safe, okay?
Yeah, you too. All right. Bye,
all right.
See ya.
Bye.
So, all the people in Ottawa can get out their wallets and buy Chris Guy merchandise tomorrow.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment. We'll see how this plays out. I'm honestly surprised we haven't. I'm surprised it hasn't emerged sooner with everything that's going on. But let's just see how it plays out. You know, we're all Canadian in this, and
whatever.
Yeah, I think I'd rather talk about Terry Fox statues than that, to be honest with you. But
I'm just worried. I'm just hopeful that this doesn't wreck what has already been there, because that's gonna suck if it wrecks it.
It's not gonna wreck it. These guys are not gonna let it be ruined.
No,
not like that. That's not going to be the thing.
The core trucking convoy, I feel, has integrity. The group of people that have brought the convoy together, they give me the impression of integrity, and I think that is more powerful than anarchy and disruption and negativity, and we're seeing it with streets getting cleaned up and that sort of thing. So I think it's a tight-knit group of people, and I think what we had seen with all the negative things that the press tried to spin, that is coming from one or two outside people who are not too bright in the head, or they're paid agitators by somebody to be assholes. So I don't think that this is going to shake the integrity of the core convoy group. I think that group is steadfast, and I think for the most part it is good. But we have to wait and see what's going to happen. We don't know. But anyway, it has been 3 hours and 45 minutes. I think
longest
time to
so far.
No, we've had longer, but I think it is time to call it quits. So
I think so too.
Rick Walker, any final closing thoughts for the evening?
Canada at war, front lines being, front lines are in Ottawa tonight and on the Alberta-Montana border, and we're going to have to monitor both of those very carefully and see if it escalates even further. Obviously, very unstable in Alberta, so hold on to your hold on to your seats, folks, because the ride's going to get a little rough, I think, in the next 24 hours.
Can't wait to see more of the Great Canadian Standoff tomorrow, and I look forward to bringing that to everybody tomorrow. Once again, I am Brenden Kennedy with the Flow of Discourse, and I can't wait to speak to you again tomorrow.
And I'm Chris, co-host of the Flow of Discourse. Please like, share, and subscribe.
I'm Rick with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia. And folks, we'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m., gentlemen.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. Same bat time, same bat station.